Hello, fellow baggers. We are back with another review of yet another loss, but not just a loss. I think it's beyond that. I think it's beyond it being just a loss. It's now at the point where we are at the point of no return. I think that's probably the way to say it. Um, it is an issue in a multitude of areas that we've spoken about previously. And really, it's like something needs to be done. Like we always talk about in the media, and I've spoken about there being, the pressure valve, as they call it. Um, and I think no matter the club, it always gets to a point where um, there needs to be change because it gets to a point where I think it's almost, not quite civil war, but I think it's a case of you're pitting the fans against the football club unless there is change that is made. And obviously, you can't make change in season to the playing group outside of selection, which we'll touch on, of course, as well. But that's another ongoing issue, which we're seeing across the board. But we need to see some sort of change off the back of this. I'm sorry. Like, I was hoping for change off the back of the North Melbourne loss. And, they're not isolated losses. They're, not just losses against a competitive side. They're performances of no heart, no spirit, nothing befitting that is, defined as an effort within AFL or senior level. I mean, at any level. So before I get into things, of course, for those of you joining us, commiserations, I guess, but thanks for joining us. I want to open up the mic to you out there. I just want to hear your thoughts, and as a collective, I think it's probably no time is better than the current, where we're all hurting in our own way. But collectively, I think the only thing we've got is to come together and, discuss the shit show that we've got and, discuss ways forward, because the way that we're persisting with things, and I know that, the board and the president, they want to put on a front as if, everything's right, everything's fine, and we're going to back in the coach and have this show of solidarity. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work. No matter the business you're in, whether it be sport, elsewhere, whether it be politics, if you're not getting the results, and if you're not, just not getting the results, but you're actually having, losses to the nature of what we are at the moment, where the players have virtually thrown their arms in the air and said, we give up. It's at the lowest point. Like if we were to play West Coast next week, I would put West Coast as favourites because mentally the players aren't there. They don't give a shit. And really, to me, it seems as though they are kind of protesting against, and it happens. You see this really in cycles. Our previous coaches that we've had at the helm, when they've when it's hit a point where, it's obvious that the coach, there's a divide between the coaching staff, whether it be the senior coach, assistant coaches, or as a collective, and the playing group, there's a divide there. And that's virtually what it looks like at the moment, where there's that divide, that disconnect, and that lack of respect, really, like between the playing group and the coaches. And you see it other teams as well. You think of, other team, Adam Simpson at West Coast, Leon Cameron at the Giants, and our previous coaches as well. But something needs to be done, really, because I am at the point now where, you want to support the boys week in, week out, but when you see efforts like that, it's like you kind of question it yourself. You're like, why should I bother as a supporter, turning up to games first and foremost, but then watching performances? Because there's no way to support what we saw tonight and what we have seen in recent weeks. It's putrid. And, there was that shot of Graham Wright in the stands, and you could just see there were so many things like that. You could almost, like, if you were sitting next to him, I'm sure you'd be able to hear the wheels just ticking over in his mind. thinking, when I signed on for this job, I didn't think it was going to be, um, as demanding as what it's going to be. I'm sure that's what he's thinking now, because the state the club's in at the moment was nowhere near, obviously, what what it is at the moment. But that's the way we've descended into. We've descended into this puddle of a team that isn't befitting of the Carlton Football Club jumper, the navy blue, the emblem. It's just all the tropes, all the cliches, but really that's virtually what it is. So before we continue, I'll whack the link in the comment section down below. I don't want to have a massive stream. I just wanted to sort of roll this into one. I will start off by reviewing things in terms of the raw stats, because they tell the tale. And I haven't looked at the stats as yet, but one thing I'm looking for is tackle numbers, and I'm looking for inside 50s efficiency. I'm looking for the one percenters, because there were many instances tonight where we saw players handballing to a teammate that would run past and have his opponent on his tail, but no shepherding, no following up. Just to give and go, like it's your it's your burden now. I've given you the ball. I'm just going to step back, and there were passages of play like that, and really just annoyed the shit out of me. Really did. So let's have a look. Let's just check out the if the AFL website wants to open as well. That's good. Their match day doesn't work unless you actually open the match day or match center, as they call it, in a separate link. Fix your website, AFL. That'd be great. Let's have a look. Let us present. Let us know your thoughts as well. If you're not keen to jump on, that's totally fine as well. Let us know your comments, thoughts, ideas, frustrations, everything. Where to from here? Do we need to see action off the back of this? Do we need to see Voss moved on? I know the president's come out and said he's backed the coach. It's beyond that. It's beyond that. You can go back on your word. But, coming out and saying that sort of shit as well, it's like there was no forethought or forward thinking in the fact that if things got worse, which things are getting worse, you look like an absolute dipstick if you come out and say we're going to, back in the coach, because now you're kind of painting yourself into a corner and you're forced to back him in, unless you want to eat humble pie and do a 180, which is what they should be doing now. But it just ridiculous shit like that. It does my head in with the politics side of things as well. There's coming out and there's being supportive and, lending your voice to try and calm a situation down. But, it just stupid, just dumb. Let's go through, really. Let's go through the stats. And no real surprise here. We were torched in disposals to the tune of 40 disposals. The Pies did what they wanted. And I knew it was going to happen. In my preview, I was talking about a loss. And I did think that, in my mind, 60-point loss, yeah, thereabouts, close enough, 56 points. Probably should have been more than that. I think the Pies probably humbled us a bit because they took their foot off the pedal, and they probably should have just put the foot down on the throat and gone harder, but they're probably just in self-preservation mode and thinking, we've got the win. Why continue going harder at the expense of potentially getting injuries? Inside 50s, just smashed. They were above their season average. They had 60 for the match. Their average for the season, 52.8. We were actually down on our average, 54.9, with 49 disposal efficiency, 72% to the Pies, 74.4%. So we had 49 inside 50s, right? Let's do these. Let's do the maths again. 49 inside 50s and 19 scoring shots there. 38% efficiency of converting inside 50s to scoring shots. Oh, there we go. There, probably should have just looked down. Shithouse. Oh, look at that. Compare that to Collingwood, 51.7%. Oh, Lord. And like our efficiency inside 50 is quite putrid as it is for the season. But we were actually worse than that. 44.8% we are for the season compared to Collingwood, who are like 9% better than us. And we were below that, below our own season average. Again, same shit persisting week after week after week. It's just a nightmare in a nightmare in a nightmare, and we just cannot wake up from it. We really can't. Hitouts. We actually won the hitouts, 45-36. We had the two sort of pronged combo in TDK and Pitt against Darcy Cameron. And we actually won the clearances, which is quite surprising, 42-33. And, Voss always talks about, building the game off contested ball and clearance work. Well, hey, we won the clearances, but did we win the game? No. So why are we still persisting with this game style that is not working? And I'll talk to structure a little bit later as well, because there is really a massive gripe that I have. And, we talk about the issues with kicking inside 50, inefficiencies, hitting up targets that aren't leading, no leading patterns, all that sort of stuff, all that hoopla. But the one gripe I had tonight, which really, really, really gave me the heebie-jeebies, was something else, which I'll get into a little bit later. So let's continue on. We'll put that in the back of our mind for the moment. Center clearances 15-11 and stoppage clearances 27-22. Contested possessions, no surprise there, really. 18 more to the Pies. Uncontested possessions, I actually thought the differential would be higher than that. Just the way that it looked as though that Collingwood had, free men, Carlton players, no real opponents. The old style of just blocking up space, and it's on you if you're within the vicinity to man up that opponent. Just nonsensical type setups. And a lot of the time there was like 5 meters gap between any Carlton player and a Collingwood player. They were well above their season average as well, by the way, of 217.4. They're 242. But hey, Voss will look at this and be like, hey, we were above our season average. That's a tick. Turnovers, 67-58. Above our season average. Marks, 89-111. A big issue. Big issue. And I was going to say uncontested marks is probably one of those things which always sticks out to us. But even worse is the fact that contested marks, 22 to Collingwood, to Carlton 7. That has got to be the biggest differential I've seen in a long while in a Carlton game. Their season average, meanwhile, is 10.1. They had 22, more than double. That either speaks to our inability to actually, spoil, put in a contest, mark against our opponents, or we weren't getting to, the contest quick enough, which a lot of the time happened as well. Kicks inside 40 to 50-yard defenders were just trailing their opponents. Collingwood just, had a 5-10 meter gap on any Carlton defender. And again, we were below our season average contested marks. Marks inside 50, 13-16. Not too bad in that area, but just really piss poor. It really is. I don't even say the uncontested there. So if you want to subtract that contested marks, what's that? 82 uncontested marks. So, either way you look at it, we were not in the contest at all. And, of course, scoring. 19 scoring shots to 30. And again, our season average for goals is pretty ordinary. We couldn't even eclipse that. Fell short by 3. Collingwood well above their season average for goals. And hey, we're just on par for the amount of behinds that we were scoring. And that's what it is, tackles as well. 14 less tackles than Collingwood, who, again, talking about the number of possessions they had 40 more disposals, and yet you would think we would have more tackles because there's less of the ball in our hands. No. They had 14 more, which speaks to their work rate, their pressure, just contest after contest, not giving up, not contesting one contest and then giving up, throwing your arms in the air, not handballing to your teammate and then not putting on any sort of block. Second, third efforts, nah. Tackles inside 50, 2 to 13. Excuse me, that's quite funny. Have a look at this. Our season average is 12, and we had two. 12, and we had two. I really just I don't understand it. Do you not understand it? We're at the point now where there's no answer, I think, to what we're seeing. Hey, to our credit, we were on par with our 1%ers. I take that back, Carlton. I take that back. That's probably one of the few positives. One of the few positives. Oh, God. Really? We'll jump on. Let us know your thoughts. There's 8 people joining us now. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. And if you are keen for a bit of a yarn, I'm here to operate as virtually a therapist as well. So let us know your thoughts. One question that I do have at the front of my mind is, should there be a change off the back of this in terms of our senior coach? And then when we're talking about the playing list, what changes are you hoping to see for next week's game? In fact, I don't even know who we play next week. I'm that far detached from this team at the moment, which is really a shame. It's such a shame. It's come to that point though. You've got to emotionally detach from things. Otherwise it weighs on you. Really, if you are that passionate about the football club, it's just it's like a trauma in a sense. Like it's that you're a hostage in a sense, and you become accustomed to these performances, and you need to be, because otherwise the frustration builds and everything else. But Jay, thanks for joining us, mate. You've said there aren't enough words to describe this team and this club. You would have just thought that, I know so much is spoken about the amount of coaches that we've sacked, and it's within our culture. It's within, it's ingrained within our history. But, that's surface level stuff. And there's a common theme across all of these, years of, almost torment, where we've seemed to have, and, you could probably give, I reckon, Bolton a stay of execution here, because I think he was largely thrown to the wolves. And I know he had his shortfalls as a senior coach. He wasn't the best communicator. I was working at the club then at Carlton in the heading up their media team, the video team, I should say, in the media department at that time. And I got to interact with Bolts on occasion. Decent enough bloke, but he did have his shortfalls in terms of communicating as a senior coach. And I think a lot of was spoken about him with regards to his, the strengths as an assistant coach under Clarko at Hawthorn. And he probably exposed himself in a sense there where he was probably, could have been a really good coach had he had extra strings to his bow, but didn't get to see that. He was across the years there where we had a developing team, a young team, and we're getting pummeled week after week. We think back to Mick Malthouse being brought in as the Messiah. This Messiah complex I think the team and the club has is just amazing. And I think we could probably really lump Michael Voss into this as well. A Brownlow medalist, captain of Brisbane back in the day, and, a fearless leader. And it was the club at the time hiring one of the few experienced coaches on offer, when really you look back on it, and Voss was the only candidate that had some semblance of experience. Mind you, it was failed experience because he was obviously given the arse from Brisbane. But, the common thread that I'm talking about and referring to here is we seem to be hiring coaches off the back of their resume, acumen as a player, and, kind of ignoring other signs. Is this coach potentially past their prime? Do they have the, the tactical nous to coach at senior level? having been at the helm quite a few seasons ago at Brisbane, it looks as though now that enough has been spoken about, like with regards to like footy in its current state. They always say that it's such a fast moving game, and tactically things change from season to season, and you need to be across things in order to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. Like you need to be adapting, changing, everything else. And what we've seen over the past 4 seasons now on DeVos is not a coach that can adapt, isn't one that is willing to, I guess, review their own work from season to season, try new things, not be stubborn in trying to implement different ways of playing, different ways of setting up. And the way that we see the players playing at the moment, and I made a tweet, I think it was last week, comparing the number of players against Port Adelaide to those that played in the prelim final against Brisbane back in 2023. And there were 7 players different. And the core group of players that, played in that prelim are currently in our team. And I always fall back on the argument that you don't lose your ability as a footballer or talent over the course of, 2 seasons. It's just not possible. Unless, of course, you are, a Scott Pendlebury type age, 33, and, you're kind of expecting at that latter stage of your career as a footballer that there will be some aggression, especially with regards to speed, being able to, I guess, react quickly enough compared to when you were a younger footballer. And I know we've got a couple of players there pushing 30, maybe beyond 30, and you could probably, say that Doc is definitely, he fits that bill. He's lost his speed. The sharpness in mind isn't quite there. His kicking skills they've deteriorated. But by and large, those players that played in the prelim against Brisbane are still in the team. The key pillars that have been taken out, Walsh, Harry, there was another player as well. I have to pull up the tweet, but all that to say, yes, the players are performing poorly, and they do need to bear the responsibility to some degree. But the way that I see the Carlton Football Club and the players on the park and the way they're performing, I see a side devoid of confidence. I see a side that doesn't quite have the faith, I think, in what is being told of them by not just Voss, but I think the wider coaching staff in what they're trying to implement. And I made a tweet tonight in a bit of a dialogue with a fellow bagger that it feels as though, like, the way that the team is being coached, there's a lack of plan B. It reminds me, and some of you out there may be too young for this, but I remember, when I started going to the footy in my early teens, regularly at Optus Oval as it was back then, and Dennis Pagan came in as a senior coach, and well-lauded senior coach and someone with obviously premiership experience, but he came in trying to implement his Pagan's paddock game plan of kicking long. Of course, worked at North Melbourne with Wayne Carey there. Incredible players, not the best sort of human being off it, but Pagan failed because he didn't have that willingness to adapt, and it was probably at that stage there where footy was kind of changing tactically. It wasn't so one-dimensional, and I think obviously that at that time in the early 2000s, after the draft, after the salary cap issues and being stripped of draft picks and everything else, that Carlton didn't have the cattle. So you could probably say it's a bit of a couple of issues there. But just speaking to Dennis Pagan, and he's a successful coach, but it wasn't working, and he failed because he wasn't able to adapt. And to me, it seems as though Michael Voss doesn't have that willingness to adapt. He doesn't bring any new ideas to the table. And what I see now, and what I have seen over this season, the back part of 2024, and even the first half of 2023, it's the same game plan. It's the same issues that we've been found out for. We switch things up late in 2023 that catapulted us forward into the finals. But, that was successful. And it was just that again, Voss being as stubborn as he was, reverted back to that game plan that he was trying to push on the players that was not working, was unsuccessful, and he's persisted with it. He's spoken about it in the presses and stuff as well. And I don't know if the press has been on. I couldn't give two shits, but let us know if it has and if you have watched it. But I would love to hear what he says. But I wasn't going to sit around and watch that because it makes me so angry. Like last week, he spoke about cherry-picked, stats that, were positive and puts a positive spin on things, the politicizing of things. And it really is frustrating. Just say it for what it is. Stop with the PR spin. And again, it's the stubbornness. If he knows himself that the players are not playing for him anymore, if he has lost the players, just please have some pride. If you're a proud player, approach the president and say, I'm happy to finish up before the end of the season, because the players aren't willing to adapt. They're not willing to, I guess, play under me anymore. And, there has to be some twing and froing. It's not just on Voss's part either. The players, they need to man up, and they need to, if they have issues, the senior group, the core group, I'm talking Cripps, Wiedering, even Charlie, if you have an issue with the senior coach, go and talk above him. I know it may cause fractures within the football department, but something needs to be done. Have a chat, book in a chat with Graham Wright. Fast tracking his, his incoming to the his appointment, I should say, to the helm of CEO, because the club, that was kind of the I guess turning the valve on the pressure that he's mounting just a little bit by saying that Graham Wright's going to be starting earlier than planned. I don't think that's enough, really. I don't think that's enough. Now, I'll go through the comments, and again, I'll whack up this. Anyone wants to jump on for a bit of a yarn, bit of a chat, feel free. And as I'm doing that, I just want to mention before I forget. So that issue of our game that really shit me, passage of play when we turned over the ball in our forward 50, the ball was kicked long, and I've spoken about this issue countless times. And this is the core frustration with Voss as the senior coach and with the coaching staff. Not so much on the players, but it's to do with the setup. So the ball was turned over in our forward 50. Collingwood got the ball. They bombed it long, knowing that our last defender in Wiedering was standing 5 meters in front of his direct opponent, Carlton goal side. Now, explain to me, what is the reasoning behind that? Now, I'm not a senior coach, obviously. I'm not someone that's coached at any level. But I don't think you need to be Einstein or having had coaching experience to know that is, unless you're playing soccer, of course, because it works then because your opponent will be offside. But in football terms, if you're in front of your opponent and it is bombed over your head, how do you expect to stop the opposition from running forward and kicking an easy goal, to which Collingwood did tonight? And it's not an isolated incident. I've seen it numerous times, and I do not understand why. Now, there is an issue as well with regards to our press and Voss's fascination with pushing our entire defence into our forward 50 to try and lock in the football. Now, what happens on turnover? What I just mentioned there. But if you want to play that style of play where you're pushing up the ground, you're trying to force or contain the football in your forward 50, why don't you have your last defender on the opposition goal side, or at least side by side? So if that ball is turned over in our forward 50, we don't find ourselves offside virtually. So it's just such a shit part of our game. It's a bugbear of mine, and it persists. It persists. It's just basic setup. It's under nine, like that is under nine stuff. That is junior level football tactical setup. And I've no doubt Collingwood would have gone into their opposition analysis preview with their footy analysts. They would have gone in there with assistant coaches, Craig McRae, and they would have reviewed vision of our games against Port Adelaide, especially North Melbourne, They could do it for virtually, most of our games that we've played, because we have set up like that numerous times, and it's just beyond words. So to me, it's just, if I'm Graham Wright, I'm pulling the trigger. I'm sorry. He has, and I really found it fascinating that because at times he's been sitting in the coach's box, and he was sitting in the stands tonight watching, and I wonder if that to me indicates that he's seen enough, he's acquired enough knowledge, sets of data, enough notes that he scribbled down in the way that the coaches interact within the coaching box, how levers are being pulled, how magnets are being shifted around. I won't speak to it in intricate detail, but because it is footy IP. But when I was working at Collingwood, I was very lucky to sit in the not directly in the coach's box. So Bucks was at the helm then, and there was Brenton Sanderson and Robert Harvey, assistant coaches there. And just seeing the way that coaches interacted during the game was very, very fascinating. And I was sat next to, at the time, Brady Grundy, ripping fella, and one of my favourite blokes in footy. And I think it was Adam Treloar, it may have been at the time, he was injured, and Josh Dacos as well, who was there taking notes, to his credit. He was kind of just, they were all sort of shadowing and taking notes and presenting to the assistant coaches their thoughts on the game as players and what they saw in the box. But I just wonder, with regards to Graham Wright, like sitting there, because I remember when I was sitting there and I was just watching the coaches interact, and a few things that quite surprised me. And I wonder if he sits there as well and just quietly just scribbles down a couple of notes. It's like, yep, okay, yep. And now the fact that he was cited, sitting in the stands, being like, okay, interesting, yep. We'll wait and see. I mean, he's not officially in the role as yet, which is frustrating because I'm sure he will pull the trigger. But from what's being told by the president, I don't think anything's going to happen, which something needs to happen, really. Something needs to happen. Let's go through the comments. Continue flicking those through because I will go through them in bulk now. Jay, again, you said there was a cancer within this group, this call. Indeed. Velo, how are you, mate? That was embarrassing. Our kicking is not even at Auskick standard. And like the skills you can't put on the coaches. I do put on the coaches from the angle of, the lack of confidence that comes via being played in a style and manner which is not conducive to winning games. And I think there are players there that are, I know that players are there that are frustrated. And I think off the back of that, comes a lack of confidence and lack of stability. And as a byproduct of that is skill errors. And there's aspects of our game as well, which we saw against Essendon, West Coast, when we were up in the first quarter by 5-6 goals, and then we were asked to play defensive and hold the footy, possession footy, and this group is so low in confidence that we have even skilled guys that are turning over the footy. And again, you don't lose skill, you don't lose talent within the space of a season or two. It's a massive issue, and players being this low in confidence, there needs to be a release of pressure. Angelo, how are you, mate? Some of the disjointed movement of the ball and basic execution. There was a few plays where we literally had 4 players free in the corridor. Yes, we have been playing with blinkers on all season. And this style as well, which is like transition footy, where, again, as I spoke to Ive earlier, where we have our defence, our forwards even, like both sides of the footy, depending on if we have the ball or don't. Voss also likes to push our defence up into the forward line to contain the footy in the forward 50, but also push our forwards back into our defence to try and force a turnover. But the issue is there, of course, is we don't have anyone running back when we do cause the turnover to kick to in our forward half. The likes, how many times have we seen Charlie Curnow in defence? Like, what is the reasoning behind this? Is he our key forward? It's just perplexing stuff. And then, on transition, as you said there, like, there was a passage of play in the fourth quarter where I think it was Cripps, might have been Akers, Ashton Moyer. They were all running in a line towards, like, alongside each other. what what purpose does that serve? You're not going to be handballing sideways, laterally for 15 meters. What's that going to do? Like, if you have 4 players standing side by side running through the middle, who's in the forward 50? It's just a shit house. It really is. The ball movement, the setup, it's archaic. We can't even hit targets with our handballs. They go to their feet or over their heads, and a lot of that is due to just a lack of confidence. Like I think back to the early part of 2023, and we are playing very, very similar. And who would have thought that a simple tweaking game plan in season would have reaped the fruits that it did? We were playing very similar at stages where it was kick down the line, possession footy, avoiding the corridor. And then we flipped it. We flipped the script, used the corridor. We switched the play and switched the play quickly as well. That's the key. And we had the ball being moved with pace, precision, and almost allowing the players to have that freedom to back in their instincts and execute plays. Whereas now it seems as though a lot of them have hands tied behind their back and they need to be role players, as assigned by Michael Voss. And the fact that he's, got this fascination with playing bulk players that are pressure forwards. We've seen it across the journey. Fantasia. Francis Evans, Ezra Reprieve comes back in, does nothing again for the 5th time. But he won't learn his lesson, of course, Michael Voss. We have Fogarty. We have Motlop, who, again, I have no idea how he kept his spot after that performance against Port Adelaide. That passage of play where he allowed his opponent to sprint off out of, Port Adelaide's defensive 50, Carlton's attacking 50, and then pointed to his Carlton teammate who said, go and pick up my player, go and pick up my man, as he was dragging his feet. Like, get out of the senior team. If you are putting in that lack of effort, get out of the senior team. He should have been dropped, because that, again, does not set the standards to play at senior level. He's been gifted games en masse. And sure, he kicked, a couple of goals. What was it tonight? If that, a goal last week. Wow. But Motlop, for some reason, he is fascinated with the amount of tackling that he can produce. Does that produce goals? No. Again, how many pressure forwards do we need? And it was always going to happen. You looked at our setup, our lineup, and let me just bring it up on screen here. The lineups. I could not believe my eyes. Could not believe it with regards to our forward setup compared to Collingwood's defence. So, Fogarty, Zach Williams, Fantasia, Ashton Moyer. Discounting force the 2 key talls. In defence for Collingwood, Quaynor is quite tall enough. Darcy Moore are tall. Jeremy Howard tall. Maynard are tall. It's just ridiculous. Smalls v talls. Unless we're kicking to the feet of our forwards, which we're kind of doing anyway because we can't hit a target, it's not going to work. Especially with our style of play, hitting, the dump kicks, the high up and unders inside forward 50. They're always going to slaughter us. Always. Valo, a very good point. Also, if TDK is going to put in efforts like the last 2 weeks, then he needs dropping, as he has already decided to leave and can't be stuffed. 100%. I said those exact words in game to my wife, who's a fellow bagger, as we know. She's been on the couple of previous streams. And I said that, it's obvious he's checked out. And if that's the case, that's fine. If you've signed a contract, and I do not begrudge him in any way, shape, or form for accepting that ridiculous offer from St Kilda. And if I was in his shoes, I probably would as well. I mean, the life cycle of a footballer at senior level is quite small. And if he does a really bad, knock on wood he doesn't, but a really bad injury when he goes to St Kilda and has to prematurely retire, he's going to be lapping up quite a bit of money. So that's fine. But if you are going to still pull on the Carlton jumper, we want to see 4-quarter efforts. A lot of the time I saw when the ball was being kicked inside forward 50, he would just aimlessly fly for the footy, not even really attempt to mark the footy. Just We need to sit him down and say, look, TDK, that's fine. If you've accepted this offer, we don't hold it against you in any way, shape, or form. But if you don't want to be here, if you don't want to play to your full capacity, which we know you can do, let us know, because we'll give you, what's that, next 7 weeks off. You can still earn, your pay packet. That's fine. Mutual agreement, handshake, part ways, and we'll allow someone else to come into the team that's willing to play. I still have no idea why Lemmy wasn't given a crack. So that's one thing I want to bring up as well in terms of the selection integrity. An issue across the board during Michael Voss's time. We know the prelim game in 2023 against Brisbane, Kennedy was the starting sub. Elimination final, Kennedy was subbed off, as you know. TDK was the starting sub. Gifting games to the likes of, our man Fantasia, who, to his credit, is actually, showing some good form. I've been highly critical of him, more so the fact that he was being gifted games by Michael Voss and played in this role which he is not built for, which is pushing high up as a high half forward. He's a small forward. That's what he does best. Get him to play that, get back to basics. And that's the other thing as well, that you see players not being played to their full potential or, their full strengths. We know about Adam Sard, his ability to run, break lines, and his attacking play as a defender. By and large, he's been asked to play as a pure defender, which he's done okay in various, matchups. But that's not his bread and butter, and that's not what we want. Our defense is lacking in speed, is lacking in dare, breaking lines, using the corridor. We could go through that, which we might probably do at the end of the season as a bit of a recap, bit of a review, because there are guys there that aren't being played in the right positions. And the fact, Pitnet, he came into the team and, I think he probably holds his own in the ruck. He's a better ruckman, a better tap ruckman than TDK. There's no doubt about that. Around the ground, it's easy to say TDK absolutely wipes the floor with Pitt. Pitt's an old school lumbering ruckman. TDK's that new age, almost that extra midfielder at the stoppage, defies his height and his size, great at ground level, and almost another clearance, contested type player. But as you mentioned there, Velo, just getting back to that statement there, if you're not going to play to your full efforts, get out of the team. Logan, haven't left the game early in my 18 years membership. Tonight was the first time. Wow. This club has broken us. Hope they get 20,000 next week. Everyone involved with Carlton can go and get fucked. I feel the same, mate. You know what? I'll be happy to say that, and part of the reason, there is a reason for this. I didn't go to the game tonight, and I've been to, and haven't been going, I didn't go to the North Melbourne game either, because reason being, wife and I have a newborn who's currently in the intensive care unit at the moment. So he's undergoing a bit of help and assistance in his early stages of life, and that's one thing that's given me perspective about things, and kind of taking a little bit of the frustration away from being a Carlton supporter at the moment, to talk about silver linings. But our little man's going well. But outside of that, it's just like, really, if I had the choice of spending some extra time with my little man, compared to going and watching a Carlton team with no heart, no spirit, what I'm going to do every single day of the week. Even if Carlton was winning, I still wouldn't go to games. But it goes to show that even if we didn't have our little man here, I would probably question going. And tonight, I probably would not have gone to the game anyway, given the lack of spirit and the fact that the players have checked out. I've spoken to it numerous times, and I have no doubt they have checked out mentally. They have lost confidence in Voss as their senior coach, and they want to see change. This is the only way they can protest. But hey, the way that we can protest is what you've mentioned there, Logan, not going to games. I've been a paid-up member for years and years. I'm a reserve seed member. I'm an AFL, almost an AFL gold member. As my wife is, and her father-in-law. We go to the footy together. But just speaking to that as well, it's just we've signed up our little one. Felix is his name. To being a Carlton member on his second day, Earthside. Wife signed him up, and we both said that, when he gets old enough to, come to games and really appreciate, we'll take him to games when he's young, of course, but when he's old enough to appreciate football, I have no doubt if Carlton doesn't turn things around, he's going to turn to both of us and be like, why did you sign me up as a Carlton member? And I'm going to feel like a piece of shit, really, because, I had the choice when I was younger, and I followed Carlton because my nan followed Carlton, and my grandfather also followed Carlton. My step-grandfather, he followed Geelong, and my brother went for Geelong off the back of that. So what could have been, but, just speaking to that, like I love the club. I always will love the club, and I never regret the decision of being a Carlton supporter. But it's like us as members, us as supporters, we've got heart, we've got, such love for the club, regardless of the way things are going and the way that, the players are performing. But yeah, really, you've encapsulated it so well, Logan. Really. And part of that reason I'm not going tonight is, like, obviously, aside from what I spoke about with the little man, it's almost making a stand in a sense. Like, I'm kind of siding with the player. I think the players now have given up, and I hate to see the fact that they're not putting in effort, which pisses me off. But I can kind of understand it in their shoes that if they don't want to play under Michael Weiss, don't force them to. What's the benefit in having him stay on for the remainder of the season? Pull the Band-Aid off. Let's fast-track things. Let's start putting things in motion. The players know where they're at. And once we move on Michael Voss, the players then should know that they are being held to account. It's not on the coach. The pressure's on you as a player. And I expect to see changes at the selection table as well for next week. Disappointed that it didn't happen heading into this week. And I'm talking senior players as well. Doherty, goodbye. DeConning, goodbye. Akers, goodbye. Those, I think, are the prime suspects. McGovern, he's had very, very patchy, flaky form, as we know. Do want to lump him in there. Cripps is out of form. Charlie's obviously out of form. I think this is the first time in his career, probably dating back to his debut year, where he's been 3 games consecutively held goalless. And just getting rid of guys that aren't putting in heart and effort, or perhaps aren't up to the level. Frankie Evans, he seems like a really nice bloke, but mate, you're not up to the level. Goodbye. Jesse Motlop, you just lack effort. You're lazy, and you get away with it way too often. Goodbye. How many players is that? That's just a handful of players already that need to be dropped. But let us know your thoughts as well. Who do you think needs and none of this joking that the whole team needs to be dropped, and because we can't do that. But prime suspects, who goes? But I feel you there, Logan. G'day, bros. How are you, mate? The fish rots from the head. 100% run the club as a football club. Change the culture behind the scenes and watch players start playing for the symbol on their chest. And that's part of the massive issue. The massive issue. Now, Broads as well. You've I don't want to out you here, but you obviously have a connection at the footy club. I'd love to hear as well. Slide into my DMs, mate. So send me a message. But I obviously, having worked at the club, was way back in 2018. I know how the club runs. A lot of it is PR spin. There's a lot of issues with regards to that. And there's a lot of emphasis that's placed on, the club being more of a business. And I know that that's the nature of footy nowadays, but the core purpose for a football club existing is to be a football club. And I was privy to back then, the meeting of the, the key pillars of what the club stands for, and, putting together the blueprint, as they called it, I think back then, in terms of what they were aiming for within the next 5 to 10 years. And it was like turning a profit. And it was like, by the way, win a flag. But the way that they've spoken about, in terms of the football side of things, they've lost sight of that. And that's why I'm really excited to have Graham Wright in here. I don't know if many of you out there have seen the interview that Terry from Blue Abroad did with the new president. He speaks very well. And one thing that I took away from that chat which if you haven't seen it, check it out on Blue Abroad. Terry does some incredible work. Massive fan of his. The one takeaway I took from that was that the president spoke about Graham Wright from a football perspective, and him having that football acumen that he can bring to the role as CEO is, an extra string to the bow that no other CEO I think can have, or very few have. So I think from what that says is that him and the board, they're going to give him, hopefully the keys to the city and make sweeping changes where it needs to be brought about. But yeah, culture is a massive issue. I spoke about it in the preview episode of this game against Collingwood and spoke to the fact that I really respect Collingwood. I respect the way that they've gone about things. You think back to when they actually got rid of Brody Grundy, Adam Treloar, and they appointed Craig McRae. Their culture, from where it was then to now, it's just such a massive turnaround. And a lot of that is off the back of Craig McRae, an incredible operator, an incredible football mind as well. He was the VFL coach when I was working at Collingwood back in 2015 to 2017, and a really, really good operator, a genuine bloke. And collectively, the players, the playing group as a whole, they respect Craig McRae so much. But tactically as well, the way that they set up, the way they conduct training, they train for certain scenarios. It's new age way of thinking as a senior coach, as a almost, I'd like to call him a master tactician, the way that he is, able to get the best out of Collingwood at the moment. There's enough spoken about Collingwood being an aging list, which they are. And I myself, I actually thought there was going to be a regression naturally due to the age of the playing list. And for Craig McRae to get, the maximum effort and maximum out of the potential of all these players still, it's just such an underrated thing. And I wish that we had a coach of Craig McRae's caliber. Jeez. And hopefully Graham Wright can help us, steer us towards that direction and helping overcome these issues with regards to changing the culture, as you mentioned there, Bros, and running the football club as a football club. We're turning a profit. We've turned a profit for quite some while. So now we need to focus on what's on field, because the club's going to make a profit either way. And the fact that they are turning a profit with the team going so shit on field over the past, few years, apart from 2023, speaks to the passion, loyalty of the Carlton fan base. And so we need to be rewarded as fans, as paying members, and everything else. Velo, in my opinion, this club lost its culture and heart when we sacked Brett Ratton and hired Malthouse. And that's what I was speaking to about earlier. The club all too often gets seduced by the opposition senior coach that, has had some success and perhaps has won a flag back in the day. And, they don't do their due diligence in interviewing the incoming coach and working out whether or not they can bring to the table something new, or are they just going to try and rehash what they've done at their previous club and hope that they can get the best out of their players with an archaic, old school approach to tactically coaching a team. And I feel as though we did that, Malthouse, there's, Dennis Pagan back then, as I spoke to about earlier. And Michael Voss, I lump him in there as well. Like, he didn't have the success at Brisbane, obviously, but it's just, being, seduced by the name, by the Brownlow medalist, the captain of the club during the successful era of Brisbane, by some sort of hope of virtue that the success that he had as a player was going to be, like an aura brought with him as a senior coach and bestowed upon the Carlton list. Just hocus pocus type shit, really. But, as I said, we painted ourselves into a corner by saying that, we needed a coach with some experience because our previous coaches in Teague and Bolton failed. But those failings largely came off the back of the board, the CEO, the footy managers not putting in place a coaching group that could support these inexperienced head coaches. And even so, we did that with Michael Voss in the form of Ash Hansen as a senior assistant. But tell me, what experience does Ash Hansen have and what can he bring to the table as a senior assistant coach, given he himself has not been a senior coach? I always refer back to Choco Williams at Richmond, who was also at Melbourne. Paul Roos, and of course, Simon Goodwin. Like, those are teams that have had success. Richmond, Melbourne, and they had previous coaches that had success that were in roles to support the head coach in terms of, experience, knowledge. What does Ash Hansen bring in that respect? Has he been a senior coach elsewhere? Has he had some success? No. He's been an assistant coach elsewhere. So I don't understand that appointment in itself. I do not understand it. G'day, Luke. Then a crack early, but fell away early, and Pies dropped it. And the humbleness, as I said, that the Pies took their foot off the pedal, and it should have been a 100-point win to them. Voss is in hiding. Is on a hiding to nothing. Yep. Again, here's the link. Anyone wants to jump on for a chat, it is in the comment section. So if you have joined us late, you can see that. Just scroll up in the chat. I assume it will be there, the chat history. If you've joined us late and you can't see the link, let me know. I'll whack it down again below in the comment section. Otherwise, feel free to keep sending through your comments. And Vince, bombing the ball into the forward line when there was 0 talls was so stupid. At least in previous weeks, there was a tall down there. Yeah, it's virtually just trying to plug holes, I think, at this stage. And Charlie Curnow being pushed down into fucking defense, honestly. Just dumb shit again. Let's face it, Voss wasn't a proven coach. Yep, he was not a proven coach. But hey, he was a coach with experience, according to the higher powers and the board, who, in terms of hiring him, they should be gone. They should be gone. I don't stand for that sort of shit, and it really is bad. Let me share this tab. So this is through obviously my personal account. Now, I don't know if you can see it there in terms of the timestamp. September 20th, 2021. So it was shortly after we hired Michael Voss. And as you can see there, I had my doubts. And I said there is a reason he was continuously overlooked for senior gigs over the past few seasons. Just reeks of the club, settling for anyone with some semblance of prior experience, good or bad. Not a fan at all. I could see this coming from an absolute mile away. And granted, it's taken a little bit longer than what I thought, because I remember putting up another tweet as well saying that we will look back on the appointment of Michael Voss and we will see it as up there in terms of appointments online, on par with Mick Malthouse. I don't want to call myself an oracle, but I had literally said this off the back of knowing historically what the club has done, how we've fallen for these big name coaches, and not done our due diligence in interviewing these coaches, not painting ourselves into a corner saying that we need experience when really we didn't. We needed someone above that could have an eye for, talent in an upcoming coach and supporting the senior coach. It's just, and this is the original tweet here, September 20th. Nope. No. Can't wait to look back on this appointment in 1 to 2 years' time and once again say, I told you so. A bloke renowned to have his shortfalls of player management, which back then, I don't know if you recall, but he had his shortcomings with regards to when he was a senior coach at Brisbane. He had a bit of an issue with some players. Very not a dictator, but not very democratic. When I speak about Craig McRae, and he's kind of spoken about it himself without using that phrase, but he likes a bit of two-way communication. Michael Voss, not so much. As I said there in the tweet, commandeered the Lions into the abyss during his tenure there. This will be on par with Mick Malthouse. Frustrating as. How the hell does Evans get 77% time on ground? He's literally the worst person. Just can't call him a player on the list. Mate, this is on par with, I spoke about it last year with regards to Fantasia. So Fantasia was a player that was averaging around about 65% time on ground. And these were games where he wasn't actually subbed off or the starting sub. But yet he was averaging, a player with time on ground numbers equivalent to being subbed off in the third quarter. He cannot play. I'm sorry, Frankie. He seems like a really ripping dude and the sort of bloke that you'd love to have a beer with, but he's not someone that we want at senior level. He's a suburban footballer at best. He's been cut by the likes of Geelong and Port Adelaide. Enough said. 4 tackles between 10 players, pathetic. Putting in an effort is what we want. Yes, we have minimal skillful players, but having a crack isn't. And that's it, exactly right. When it comes to, the pressure mounting and when push comes to shove, these are the moments where the spotlight is shone on every individual player, and all you want to see is effort. And if not, this kind of needs to be the low watermark, we'll call it, because if you're not setting the base standards, the minimum, get out of the team. Get out of the team. If you're low on confidence, get out of the team. Find your form in the VFL like we did with Doherty. To his credit, he's come back. He's shown some okay form, but tonight wasn't a very good game by him. And he's kind of being shown up for being a bit slow, and the game has gone past him. And he probably knows that himself. He's quite a humble player, as you know, and this will be his last season, you would think. Luke, is 10K signed, sealed and delivered? What if St Kilda pull out? He's definitely not worth crazy money Saints offering. I did think about this, and surely they're not going to renege on the offer, and I hope they don't. Because, even if they do, Carlton can turn around and be like, we'll just rewrite the contract. What we've offered you previously, we're going to take that off the table, because what you've shown in the back part of 2025 especially is not near the standard of what we want in terms of retaining you on a long-term deal. So I think really at this stage, I think he's gone personally, and I think St Kilda are dumb enough to offer that money, and all power to them, all power to TDK to take it. But I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise that he goes on big money and we get a first-round draft pick, which we need it because we don't have one this season. Joe O'Halloran, how he meant, it cannot just be the coach. We've been doing this with the players for more than a decade. There is elements of that, yes. It isn't all on the coach, and it's not just on Voss himself. It's on the coaching staff as a whole. But again, I point back to our team that we had against the Brisbane Lions in the prelim in 2023. We had the same core group of players, bar 7 players that aren't in the team. Harry, Walshy being one of those, due to injury. And we had Marchbank, mind you, at centre-half back. So there were a couple of players there that got delisted. Jack Martin's another one. Marchie delisted. So I think there was like 2 or 3 injuries. Harry, Walsh, someone else. Marchbank being delisted. Jack Martin delisted. I'll have to pull it up on screen in a moment. But again, I just refer back to the fact that, the way that players were playing in the early part of 2023 is probably on par with the way we're playing at the moment. And yet we were quickly able to turn that around off the back of some strings being pulled by the coaches. And the players regaining a bit of confidence off the back of that, and we made a prelim. Granted, I think we had some luck, but again, yes, it's not just on the coaches, it's on the players as well. And there are players there that I think need to be moved on. I think Akers he's a player that has kind of got off too lightly on the fact that his good games are great, but it's kind of outweighed by the fact that his bad games are absolutely fucking terrible, really, and not up to standard. And it seems as though he's having more of those games compared to the great games that we saw, especially in that 2023 final series. Like, he saved us, in both of those games, virtually, the Melbourne game and the Sydney game. But yeah, there's senior players that need to be moved on. McGovern, I'm not a massive fan of. I think we need to move him on in a trade, get as much as we can in terms of, I guess, elevating his prospects by playing him up forward, getting him into some good form, give him a handshake and say, sorry, mate, we're moving you on. But who's going to take him? That's the thing. Who's going to take Akers? Doherty needs to be moved on. So there are players, yes, definitely, that need to be moved on as well. As you mentioned there, Velo, with regards to Lukey, if I was St Kilda, I would pull out after his efforts. Not worth even $1 million a year, yeah. And that's kind of reportedly what we are offering TDK, which would make him the highest paid player, I think, per season on our list, which is not worth at all. Not worth at all. Thanks for the thoughtful message there, Lokes. Yeah, little Felix is going as well as can be, mate. He was just born a little bit premature, and yeah, he needs a little bit of assistance with regards to his breathing, and he's been kicking goals. He's been kicking goals, and he's got quite a personality already. He's just ticked over a month old now, but yeah, I just I can't wait for the day that I get to take him to the footy, and I think that's one thing I'm really really looking forward to. So yeah, that'll be good. But no, he's going well. He's going well. Thanks, mate. YouTube tone. So you said sack the complete. Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to the board, that they kind of go, they get off scot free by and large, which is frustrating because again they've kind of pulled the strings in hiring these failed coaches, and it's all too easy for people on the surface to say, oh, it's within Carlton's culture to sack coaches. Well, yes, it is, but can we look beneath the surface and work out why that is? Well, it's on the people who are hiring these coaches that are not working out. And you can't just lump it on the players in turn as well, which I've seen in the media recently saying, we need to trade out the likes of Charlie, we need to trade out the likes of Harry and Walsh and whatnot, which is not the answer. That's throwing the baby out the bathwater. What we should be doing, as you've mentioned there, is doing a complete overhaul of the board. But the frustrating thing is, and I don't know if it's something that is that exists on with other teams, but the board seem to be like you can't run for the board yourself. I think I don't know what they call it, but it's like a virtually a I don't know what they call it. It's kind of like a board which operates in terms of hiring people on the board. So it's like people that want to get on the board, they have to apply. You go through this vetting process, and that's it. Like you're not actually, it's not a democratic system where you put your hand up and then someone votes you in. It's such an archaic way to operate things, and it protects those people currently on the board, which is annoying. Velo, in all reality, who is going to want this coach to coach the club? Someone washed up or someone who is not good enough to begin with? Now, I spoke about it earlier with regards to, Paul Roos, Simon Goodwin being that, coach underneath him, Choco Williams helping out Damien Hardwick, and I would love to bring Horse Longmire in as not so much the senior coach, but the senior assistant coach, and bring on someone of, that's done the rounds, that's had their experience as an assistant coach in, say, a John Siracusa, the likes of someone like that who was fresh, who can bring fresh ideas to the table, Blake Carousella maybe, and have Horse, bestowing his experience, his know-how, his tactical acumen to whoever is in the senior coaching role. Kenny Hinkley maybe even as well, but, he hasn't really had success or that much success as a senior coach. And I know that Horse hasn't either, but, he's come the closest. Or even an Adam Simpson maybe. He's won a flag at West Coast. Bring him in as the director of coaching, whatever you want to call it. I think we need to switch things up there. G'day, Ants. Tim Clark, goodbye. Yep, he's on his second run. And I don't understand this. Like, we bid him farewell and we've brought him back in. But there's a disconnect here between the way that the players are playing, especially the midfielders and the forwards. Again, kicking inside forward 50, goodbye. And 100% here, I agree with you. Jordan Russell, forwards coach, goodbye. Now, Aaron Hamill, goodbye. He's probably the only one that I would maybe give a stay of execution, because the defense, by and large, has actually been okay. It does have its shortcomings, yes, I know. And I will say the way that the team or defense structures where they push up the ground, I think that's more so on Voss, and that's kind of, he's the overarching, voice on things. And when it comes to that and the way that the team transitions and switches in the three tiers of defense, midfield, and forward, that is on Michael Voss. But when the ball's in the defensive 50, how they use the footy, how they structure, all that sort of stuff, that's where Aaron Hamill comes in with his know-how and coaching, and obviously on training sessions and stuff as well. But he's probably one that I would, if I was Graham Wright, I'd sit down and just have a really big, honest conversation with him, and off the back of that, assess whether or not he is good to stick around. Otherwise, I'm all for a clean sweep, which Last year, there should have been players moved on in the form of Jordan Russell. I think might have been Ash Hansen was doing the forward line as well before they brought on Jordan Russell, which is, again, an issue if Ash Hansen is expected to be the senior assistant coach. Tim Clark, nope. Second coming, goodbye. And McRae also, yes, he had that good setup, that structure. And that's what, again, I forgot about Leppich. So Leppich, obviously, he didn't win anything. He didn't have much success as a senior coach, but he had been there, done that at Brisbane. Brendan Bolton had been there, done that at Carlton. Not successful, but in their own right, I think they're both pretty valuable assistant coaches. And McRae was able to lean upon them for assistance where need be. And very good point there, Ant. Leppich took Richmond's IP to Collingwood and enhanced it. Very, very good point, mate. I actually forgot that he was at Richmond there for a little while, and a great get from Collingwood. Voss has not had the assistants McRae, Hardwick, Melbourne, Geelong, and Hawthorn have had. Even Fagan had Stuart Dew last year. Equals a flag. That's the new age way of thinking. We need to get a senior assistant coach in, or a director of coaching, whatever you want to call them, that has had experience as a senior coach. It's no coincidence, is it? The fact that, coaches that have had experience, clubs that have had success, that have won flags, they have had this coaching structure set up. I wish I wasn't, really, Velo. I really wish I wasn't. And people were taking the piss out of me back in 2023 when we turned the season around, because that in season then, in the first part, as you remember, we're playing as bad as what we are now. And I was calling for Voss's head. And I remember mates of mine were like, prematurely, you're bringing up this tweet you made back in 2021. And I said, okay, well, if that's the case, if it persists, we continue on with this, 100% I'll swallow humble pie. And I wish I could have, really. I really wish I could have. But the writing was on the wall. It's just because it's the way Carlton Football Club operates. Lukey, wonder whether Carlton has spoken to Ken Hinkley. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, Graham Wright is the one that's kind of taken the keys from Brian Cook. But I wonder. Simo is a former Carlton supporter, so maybe he might want to try and help. And Simo, from what's, I'm not too sure if you've heard some of what Simo has said in the media. Like, he's very big on SEN, on game days and stuff as well. He actually surprised me in terms of his, he obviously has knowledge of the game itself. He's been a senior coach for quite a while. But I remember when the team, we started the season pretty poorly. And yeah, it's been a trying season. And he I think kind of was stepping back into his Carlton supporter days. And he was very honest with saying the way that the team was playing surprised him. The way that the team was being structured surprised him, or words to that effect. He didn't come out and, shit can Voss or the wider coaching group. But it was really a surprising thing and refreshing to hear him being so honest. And I'm like, okay, well, what we've been saying here as a supporter base across 2024 lines up with what Simo was saying in the early part of 2025. So it's, I don't know. I don't know if he's got the chops to be a senior coach, Simo, but I would like him for that director of coaching role, or, senior assistant coach. Lukey, play kids, no need to win any more games this year. Yep. Find out who wants to be there and whether they can cover that role. Yep. Bring in Lemmy, bring in, persist with Moya. Showed a couple of nice signs. His leading and marking work was really impressive. Kicks for goal, not too bad, apart from kicking the man of the mark, of course. But really, he showed a fair bit. And the one thing that really has annoyed me as well that I will mention is players being, given a crack at senior level for one game, albeit probably as a sub, because that has happened, and being dropped, or off the back of a bad game, them being mad as a sacrificial lamb and being dropped. Happened with Lord. It's happened with Binns across the journey. Jack Carroll was another one. Paddy Dow. There's been so many players here that, should be persisted with. Mind you, there were a couple of players that I think Jack Carroll's, even though he's not getting a crack at St Kilda, I thought what he was showing and what he was starting to show at senior level was actually not too bad. But, Voss has this fascination for players like Fantasia back in 2024. The Fantasia for 2025 has actually been pretty good, but 2024, now he's obsessed with Motlop. He's obsessed with Frankie Evans, who's not up to it. Don't worry about this guy. They're not the future. They are not the future. And Motlop, you could probably give him a reprieve, but send him back to the VFL. You've got to work in your game, mate. You've got to work on your intent. You've got to work on your motivation. You've got to work on your fitness. You're not fit enough to play at senior level. And you're certainly not fit enough to play in the midfield as Voss is playing you. Because you're not speedy. You don't have the awareness, let alone the awareness to play as a small forward up forward, that you get tackled and you get, dispossessed way too easily. He needs to work in his game. But bring in these guys. Bring in the youngsters. Do not have, and I just knew it. I don't know about you guys, but before I saw the finalised teams in terms of who was a sub, I just knew it. I'm like, you know what? He's not going to have Frankie Evans as a sub. No way. He's gonna want to play his 6 pressure forwards. But, having a look at the interchange. Oh, that's right. Oh, Flynn Young, the bloke who's, been the sub in his first couple of games. Yeah. We'll make him the sub again. Just shits me. How are we supposed to know what we're getting out of a player that we took in the mid-season draft, who offers a fair bit in terms of his kicking, very, very precise. He's got a lot of penetration in his kick as well, which I love, and provides a little bit of speed in a sense. No, keep him as a sub, Voss says. Keep him as a sub. Jay, Simo's dog shit, not a massive fan. He stuffed West Coast. That's a no. I think Simo, unfortunately, I think he cops an unfair whack with regards to West Coast. West Coast, they did themselves over by their aging list and them not being, I guess, forward-thinking in bringing in new youngsters and trying to blood them. And they went for the flag, and luckily they got it in 2018 against the Pies. Otherwise, it would have looked way worse than what it was. They went all out. They traded 2 first-round draft picks, wherever it was, for Kelly from Geelong. And they persisted with their aging list. But I think Simo probably, seemed as though the game was going past him. But I think with the list that he had at West Coast in his last couple of years was pretty much dog shit. But it comes back to playing the right players and stuff as well. Yeah, for sure. Development. G'day, Jack. How are you, mates? G'day, legend. How are you going? Been a minute since I've heard your radio voice. Oh, thank you, mate. What do you think needs to happen for the Blues to click it together? They won't get rid of Vossi because of his contract. Well, I don't know about that, Jack. Now, I know you have your old man is a little bit of a connection. But what I can say is I'm sure they would be very willing to. Now, Voss has a year remaining on his contract. There is no way the club would survive if Voss was kept on for season 2026. They will pay him out, which they have to do. That's just the way it is. Now, you've probably joined us a little bit late with the sounds of there, Jack, but we've gone through in terms of there being an overhaul in the coaching ranks. So Voss out. He's got an archaic game plan, lacks a plan B, has this really weird setup where he pushes the defense into the forward half of the ground, and then we get killed on turnover. The same thing happens. Our forwards push up into defense to force a turnover. Then there's no one running the opposite direction when we do have the ball. So we're forced to keep the ball in hand, slow ball movement, which he loves anyway, which is perplexing in itself because it doesn't work. And he prides himself on a game plan that's built off contest and clearance. And yes, we may have won the clearances tonight, but we still lost by 58 points. And yes, the players are low on confidence, and there are players as well that are not immune from criticism either. There are players that are out of form, like Charlie Cripps is even out of form, the captain. But there are guys that need to be moved on, I think. There's Doherty, there's Akers, there's a whole host of players that we spoke about, but there needs to be sweeping changes across the board. And Graham Wright, hopefully when he comes in, can make them. And speaking of the board, I just wish there was a mechanism there where we could dissolve the board. And if they want to hold themselves to account, which I think they should, put yourself up for re-election. Put yourself up for re-election. That's all I say. That is all I'll say. But hope you're well, Jack, mate. Thanks for joining us. G'day, Sid. How are you? So as Vossi, look where that got us. I don't know what that's in reference to, Jay. Sorry, mate. So I'm a bit slow on the uptake for comments. TDK is playing in self-preservation. Yep, 100%. And you know what the club should say? Sit him down and say, okay, well, it looks as though you've accepted the contract at St Kilda. That's fine. They're offering you life-changing money. We can respect that. We respect your decision. But if you want to go into self-preservation mode, we'll help you, mate. Don't play in the senior level team for the remainder of the season. And if you want to play in the VFL, go ahead. If you don't, sit on the sidelines. You know, we did the same thing with Hendo when he agreed to a contract at Geelong. Do it. Do it. I mean, if he gets injured, if he's out for the season, do you think St Kilda will want to take him still on that money? No chance. And I think it probably is going to help us with him moving on. He's not in the best form. And I actually do worry for him a bit, just, you know, from a human being perspective, because if this is the way he's playing at the moment, and I hope he's factored this in, but when he goes to St Kilda on the massive contract that he is, if he's going to continue playing the way he is at the moment, the amount of pressure that he's seeing now, which is pretty much non-existent, is going to come tenfold. He's going to be highly criticised. He's going to be dragged through the media, highest paid player, not getting the best out of him. And it's going to be, it's, you know, you hate to see it, but, you know, I think back to Boyd when he went from the Giants to the Bulldogs on big money, and he suffered from it because he couldn't handle the pressure. And it's normal, but you've got to expect that on a big contract. So I just hope for his own sake that he comes to expect that. Velo, Campo twins, and that's the other couple that I've forgotten now. Ben, he's been actually showing some really decent form. I think he should be given a crack. And we're a footy side that is calling out for speed on the outside. Why haven't we played Lucas and Ben? Lemmy, yep. Wilson, back in. Even Charleston needs to be given a chance to see if they have what it takes. Yep. Sid, how much broken tackles did Collingwood break of us? Yeah, it was piss poor, half-hearted efforts. Just terrible. I was waiting to see a reaction to the preview. I thought you were going to wait for the team dropping. Yeah, no, I wasn't. Well, it was a little bit of a rush there, mate, because I'd actually recorded it the day before, and I was at the hospital with my little man, and I had to cut it together and wake it up before teams dropped. So, yeah, I was hoping to put it up the day before, but I didn't get time to do it. But it's probably a good thing, because if I'd seen that the likes of Frankie Evans came back into the team, I would have lost my shit. And it's the same thing week in, week out, really. So just imagine what I would have been reacting, and that's how I was reacting. And the way that I have been reacting previously, well, that's the way I react again. He is, yeah, TDK, he's losing value. The way he's playing at the moment, he's losing bulk value. Yes. But oh well, St Kilda, I think they're going to still offer him a contract, and it'd be interesting to see if they actually renege on the offer, if they actually rewrite it and say, yeah, you're not quite worth the amount of money that we were thinking you were worth. And maybe that throws things. Who knows? But if he turns around and goes back to us and says, oh, you know, I've considered things and I want to stick around at the club, again, we could turn around and be like, well, we'll give you a contract. But again, like St Kilda, you're probably not worth the money that you're hoping to receive. Your recent form has dipped, and it's a little bit of a worry longer term. So we can work into our favour as well. But I would much prefer to see him lead at this stage. I think we need, you know, we've got Peter Dean's son coming through, highly rated key position player. We've obviously got Cody Walker coming through next year as well. So not this coming draft, the draft after. So we'll be well placed. And then we've obviously got Jagger Smith. But yeah, I mean, it'll help us in a sense. And even if we use that, I'd love to use that first round draft pick that we received as compensation for TDK to try and lure across Flanders. Good old Ned Flanders, Sammy Flanders from Gold Coast. He's not being played in his pure position as a midfielder. He's played as a high half forward currently. Has the speed, has an incredible boot. he's the sort of player that we should have drafted in his draft year. We were linked to him, but we didn't go for him. He's the sort of player that we're really crying out for. Offering money, TDK leaves. I reckon he's probably on around about 700K to guess. Might be less than that on his current contract. Offer that money. We've got a bit of a buffer. Offer it to lure Flanders and offer them the, if it's a draft pick 10, 11, 9, whatever. Bring him in. We need someone of his speed, his experience, and good clubs across the journey have brought in players. Like you look at Geelong, the way that they've done it as well. They've cherry-picked players with experience across the board, and they've regenerated their list on the go without bottoming out. And I think we did really well to get Jagger because I think we will wait and see. I know there's some people out there not too keen on him, and it's quite funny that you've got Sid Draper there as your handle, Sid Draper, but who I was also a fan of. But Jagger Smith, to me, I thought he was going to be number 1 overall. Has everything that we want. We have speed. We're lacking speed. We're lacking skill, both of which he has, and leadership as well for his age. And he was a player that graduated a year before other players in terms of his age bracket and concentrated on footy for a full season. Hence the reason why I played in the VFL for Richmond as well. So I'm really, really excited for Jagger. Really excited. So I'm not too in the dumps about that. Like I think about the future and I'm like, things can be better and things can improve quite quickly, provided that we make the right changes. That's the thing. Sid, you agree with him on so many broken tackles. This will be the last year I give my hard-earned money to the club, says Velo. Why should I be giving them money when they don't give me my satisfaction in return? Yeah, and I do understand that. I totally do understand that. I mean, in the context of cost of living, we give more than what we would in any other, I think, time, where it's no longer just finances, but we have to prioritize things nowadays as to where we spend and how we spend our money. And your investment into the Carlton Football Club just isn't something that is financially, but it's emotionally invested. It's the love that you invest in the club, and yeah, it's something that I totally understand with. I'm a Nuffy, meanwhile, and my wife is as well, and her dad, my father-in-law. We'll always continue paying, as we did during the COVID years as well, just to support the club. But it hurts because you pour so much time, effort, love, your 10 matches, and you pay for memberships, reserve memberships as well in our case, which we want to continue paying because otherwise we give up our seat. And you want to ride with the club during the good and bad times, but the way that it's being operated at the moment, I totally understand those people that want to take a stand and not pay for membership. That's totally understandable for sure. It made me think about our strength and conditioning. Yeah. No Andrew Russell, says Dominic, and we've gotten worse to outrun a game. Yep. I think it's that a lot of that is due to the game plan as well. There's an expectation where players across the board are expected to run up and back, up and back, up and back for 4 quarters, which I think is just unsustainable to do, to ask that of every single player. Like we even see the likes of Charlie Curnow being pushed back to bloody, deep in the defensive pocket, which is ridiculous. Like I know he's quite an aerobic forward, but we don't need him down in defence. So, when you're expecting that of players to do that in that style, I think it's pretty haphazard and a little bit negligent, I think, in all honesty. But yeah, it's no surprise that we get injuries as well. I mean, soft tissues have been okay by and large, but they've still been striking us down. Velo, maybe bundle the compo pick and go for more. I'd love. They'd probably stub their nose at that because I think they really rate Moyle. Jared Witts is 32, 33 or thereabouts, and I think he's probably a season or 2 away from retiring. So I think they would probably want to keep Moyle, but I absolutely rate Moyle. And a great call there from you, Velo. I would love to do that. If they would take that pick 10, pick 9 for Moyle and Flanders, I would take that in a heartbeat. Absolutely. Wenus or Venus, which is a good nickname for the Carlton Football Club at the moment. Carlton players play with a huge amount of moral hazard. Yeah, well, it seems as though they're kind of taking a little bit of a stand at the moment, aren't they? Against the coaching staff, it would seem. Zach Williams is Jack Martin 2.0. They both show glimpses in a match. Then you know they're going to get injured. I said to my dad, yes, he's having a blinder, but knowing him, he'll get injured next quarter, and look what happened. Yeah, 100% right. 100% right. Zach Williams, and it's a player again. You know, we talk about fascinations with certain players and, you know, whatnot, but we threw all the money at Zach Williams. And isn't it quite funny? We threw all the money at Zach Williams to come across to us. He was, you know, the in a bit halfback, attacking halfback. We had Sard, and it was like two of these guys was really going to help us out. And then as it's turned out, fast forward to 2025 and 2024 even, and he's virtually playing as like a mid-sized forward. Who would have guessed it? But yeah, his body is just absolutely cooked, I think. He's it's just frustrating, really, really, really frustrating. G'day, Dom, a fellow Pies man. Now, just on the Pies, Dom, I will mention, and I spoke about it in the preview episode. You probably haven't seen it, mate, but I have the utmost respect for Collingwood. I'm not here to bag Collingwood. You may not know this, and you probably don't because you haven't tuned into me before, but I used to work at Collingwood back in 2015 to 2017 on the cusp of the 2018 season, and then went across to Carlton. And I was there when Bucks was the coach. And I have a huge respect for the way that Collingwood operate as a club, not just a team. But going to this game, there was always going to be a Collingwood win. Really, it was. But the way that they've built the side, it's based on culture. It's based on connection between defence, midfield, forward. And it's a winning culture. It's a culture that isn't really built on, you know, they're quite talented, but they're aging list, obviously. But it's a connection between coaches, players, the wider staff. It's something that I think Carlton could really dream of. And I think Graham Wright, having been at Collingwood, it's a blessing in disguise because he's going to come into Carlton and be like, well, I've had a little bit of a taste before I've stepped into the CEO role and seen the way that you operate. Do you want to know how Collingwood operate? And I'm sure that he will lay it bare and really make them feel bad. And I hope it does. And that's the board, including as well. The board, the coaches, the players, and just talk about the disconnect across the board, across the, not the board, but be at the board, but talking about the club here. And yeah, Collingwood, I mean, they're proving why they are the best team in the competition at the moment, 100%. So you're not going to get me bagging you any way, shape, or form, Dom. You know, so if anyone wants to jump on and troll, you're preaching to the choir here. I have a huge respect for Collingwood. Not so much their supporters by and large. They're probably the part of Collingwood that kind of you don't really like, but you respect in the right sense. But in terms of a club, having been there within the four walls, I do respect Collingwood 100%. Luke, you've said just saw Kerno's post-game interview. He was like a deer in headlights, shitting himself. Said you'll see a different Carlton next week. And how many times do they want to say that sort of stuff, and then it doesn't come to pass? What then? You just will at the same things like stick fat, all that sort of stuff. I do feel for the players in a sense that they do need to front. And if you are an established player, you kind of you're sort of pinpointed. But that's punishment, I think, in a sense as well. If you're not performing, you should be expected to go in front of the media and chat about what the supporters saw on field. It's frustrating. It really is. Dom, who are Carlton's going to let Graham Wright? Well, I had the same thought as well, Dom. I did. And it's with regards to, if Graham Wright's coming in as a CEO and he's coming in with that football acumen, then he needs to be able to do what he does best and implement a change across the landscape at Carlton from administration. And that'll come in the form of recommendations, like honest conversations. That's probably the way you'd phrase it there. because a lot of them would probably crack the shits, being on the board and everything, as they would, high and mighty, all that sort of stuff. Coaches, he needs to go in there, wipe the slate clean. And I think and I spoke about it earlier, but Terry on Blue and Broad, he had a really nice chat with the president, sat down in the Gardener's stand, I think it was, at Icon Park, and he was honest about saying he was drumming up virtually the press about Graham Wright coming in with his football background and allowing him to recommend and make changes, which is a really good thing, I think, and says to me that he's quite open. And he mentioned as well the board, which is pleasing. They are open for him to make the appropriate changes and, recommend changes as well. So I just hope, as you mentioned there, Dom, that they give him the keys to the club to really do the changes that need to be made. And yeah, this is a big issue as well. Getting rid of the likes of Matt Kennedy, the guy who plays with heart and soul, was last year probably arguably our best, most valuable player, talking in terms of his roles that he was asked to play, plug holes, everything else. It's just, it shits me. It really does. And that's a disrespect between coaches and players and stuff as well. But that needs to be reviewed in itself as well. Whoever ticked that approval, I think it's Brad Lloyd as the head of footy. Goodbye. And Brad Lloyd needs to go as well. He's been there terribly during all these bad decisions. Ticked off the appointment. Michael Voss, the board did as well. Do you think Kennedy watched the game tonight and Zach Fisher? Probably not. I don't think so. If I was in Keno's shoes, I probably would have. Kennedy is quite an honest, humble guy, and I think he was interviewed recently and said he loved the club, and there's probably that common understanding of that he was happy to part ways if they were just as happy to part ways as well. So I don't think there's any ill will there. And Zach Fisher, I think he's kind of moved on as well. 2 seasons since he's been gone. But yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think they hold grudges. Actions allowed of the words. If you go to the AFL website and change the output for forwards since Owies and Kennedy has gone has been terrible. For the forwards and stuff. We don't have anyone to step into Owies' role, and there was too much. And you check back my videos last season, or even in the pre-season, post-season of 2024, and I was not a fan. I didn't have any confidence in Motlop at all. And look what's happened. Lukey, why would Kennedy go back? He's in with a good chance of a flag. Yeah, I think he's just. I think Dom is talking more in terms of, the fact that we got rid of a player that would have played a role. There's no way he'd go back. Pressure acts, tackles. Yeah, there's across the board here, mate. Across the board, that things are down in. And hey, if you ask Michael Voss, hey, there's positives, and he'll cherry pick the positive stats. They will cherry pick that. Yeah, it was just a weird decision. I don't know what they were doing, getting rid of Keno. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can find shall we do it? Shall we watch the press conference if it's been put up? I don't know if we really want to. Let's have a look. Okay, let us know in the chat if you want to watch the presser. Let us know. Dom, you're a Piesman, obviously, so you want it. But I'm going to give you a stay of execution, mate, because you're being quite civil. And I know you were trying to trial at the start. But as I said, I've got no ill will towards the Pies. So, I've got a bit of a connection there. But they've got nothing on my baggers, that's for sure, in terms of my love. But, it's another one. Yeah, sorry, Ann. Ratton helping Mitchell. Another one. Perfect. And Ratton's obviously hasn't had any real success as a senior coach, but he's got that experience of being in the role and helping out in terms of that. It's on the club site. Painful watching these presses. Let's see it. Let's just watch it. Let me know as well if you can hear this.
Sportsbet's new Hot Legs. Now you can see who's on fire based on their last 5 games. Then combine them in a same-game multi for bigger odds. Hot Legs, new from Sportsbet.
Can you hear this?
Chances are you're
Let
about
us know
to
in the
lose.
comments if you can hear.
Decent start to the game, all told, but it just fell away pretty rapidly after probably the first half, didn't it? So,
it did. Some good passages to play early. Some good opportunities that were presented. Yeah, probably coughed up a couple of goals that we shouldn't have. A little bit easy, but yeah, I mean, the game doesn't ask you to do it for 30 minutes. Different response, start of the game, but, as the game went, obviously we fell away in key parts of the game. So, the first part that fell away was around a contest, and almost go as a masterclass in contest, really. So we lost some really critical territory on the ground, and on the other side, we weren't good enough to be able to use ball back the other way. So it's hard to get ascendancy, hard to get territory on the game, and obviously put us under enormous pressure, and we weren't able to work our way through that.
Just on that, the foot skills especially really seemed to let you guys down tonight, and especially from some of the more senior players as well. Was that probably one of the more concerning aspects of tonight's performance?
No, the most concerning part of this, the missed tackles, aerial contests we lost.
Missed tackles.
We didn't defend behind the ball. When
Defend
the ball was
behind the
turned
ball.
over, we weren't sharp enough in our reactions. And, they kicked whatever it was, 70 points in off transition. Wasn't
fast enough in our reactions. Does that include as well when Wiedering was standing 5 meters in front of his opponent and the ball was kicked over their head when the ball was turned over in our forward 50?
Kicked 4 goals from centre square bounce. We've had a year where we've been able to defend behind the ball really, really well. And that's, how much pressure we get on the ball. It's giving our backs an opportunity to be able to defend the ball. But, we just couldn't collectively get that done today. So there's just breakdowns, too many breakdowns. So when I say laying it down, you can handle the disappointment if there's breakdowns in offense. You can handle that disappointment. Our game is made up of imperfection. But what you need out of imperfection is a response. And our response wasn't sharp enough on that. And they were able to maximise too many opportunities, and they also capitalised on some really critical contests.
Michael, at three-quarter time, it looked like you were trying to get a response from the leaders on the field. We could see you with, Patrick and Jacob and Charlie. And to my eye, it looked like you were saying, and I'm paraphrasing, that, this isn't good enough. Was that just trying to elicit a response from them in that moment, or is that just what they need to hear to get them fired up? What was your...
No, it's more about standards. What standards do we accept? And what standards are we accepting from one another right now? So what feedback do we actually give to one another, and how direct do we need to give it? Because there's a sense of urgency in that moment to be able to correct. And we weren't able to do that. So engaging the leaders was effectively that conversation. And then making a really pointed decision about how we want to see out this game. Because that, it was made known certainly at three-quarter time, we'll finish this game out strong. And we certainly didn't get those actions through the middle part of the game. And it really let us down. It did the week before, and it did this week as well.
So does that response work then, do you think? Like, it must be frustrating for you to have those conversations and you're not getting the response, it appears.
Oh, we got the response, but it's too late. Like, it's, like you finish off the game, at least, a little bit level. We got a little bit more ascendancy around the ball, but you still want to finish it out strong. You still want to see actions that show that, what are the winning behaviours that we want to continue to promote at this football club. So you might acknowledge that for half of it, it's not done correctly, but there's another half that you've got to get it done. And the most difficult of times to be able to get that done is when the game's not going for you. Right now, it's not going for us. So when you look at now the behaviours of what we need to be able to have and what we need to be able to get after, these are when the critical decisions are made. So, and so the way we want to play and what we're going to value, we don't step away from our responsibilities on that.
Just before we continue, Velo, this is the spin that he that he attempts to put on things. Excuse me. This is the spin that he puts on things. That is classic politician type talk, where instead of facing reality and the fact that Collingwood took their foot off the pedal to allow us back into the game, which mind you, let's just have a quick look at the scoring match timeline. We kicked 2 goals, 2 in the last quarter. Collingwood kicked 1 goal, 4. Are they going to call that a win in that respect there? Are they trying to call that a win? What, because we almost leveled the contest? We didn't virtually win. That's just shit house. Sure, we kicked, one goal more than they did. But you can't call that a winning quarter with the way, if you're talking about it in terms of if Collingwood kept their consistency and pressure rating in the fourth quarter and we were able to, outdo them at their game, at their peak, then I would call that a winning last quarter. But the fact they took their foot off the pedal and allowed us back into the game, you can't say that is like us turning around, and responding. It's just an absolute fucking. It's just shit house, really. Absolutely shit house. It's just ridiculous.
Furthest thing from mine. Furthest thing from mine. Well, the fight's on and it's live. Season's live, and this is the most important part. So seeing out the season strongly is exactly what we are going to do. There'll obviously be some opportunities as we presented tonight with some younger players. But there's also trying to get the cohesion with the group to be able to play some time together. So we might have some breakdowns. We might, but we're pretty determined to give that exposure where needed. But there's also a level of expectation around our performance that we need as well. And seeing out the season, and so we don't step away from our responsibilities on that.
6 and 10 now, top 8's a long way away.
Furthest thing from mine. Furthest thing from mine. Well, the fight's on and it's live. Season's live, and this is the most important part. So seeing out the season strongly is exactly what we are going to do. There'll obviously be some opportunities as we presented tonight with some younger players. But there's also trying to get the cohesion with the group to be able to play some time together. So we might have some breakdowns. We might, but we're pretty determined to give that exposure where needed. But there's also a level of expectation around our performance that we need as well.
3 pretty disappointing losses in a row now.
I saw that.
I'm confident that the message is still getting through.
Yeah, he cut them off and said,
still have good players like,
but really, and he talks about wanting to.
Mate, we come into every single game and every single week, and our job is to be able to provide the consistency of the messaging, consistency of the environment, work through what's work and what's not working, and then we sort of start to work out, well, what do we need to get better? At the moment, we've got a couple of really critical phases that we need to be able to get better. And the other part is that the only thing I'm really worried about right now is ensuring that we continue to support our people, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So this goes well beyond just, when we talk about our support teams and our players, this goes to families as well. So how are we supporting them? So
what are you talking about?
All those other sorts of things about pressure and
fucking read the post, mate.
They are the least of my concerns right now.
Michael, from a coaching perspective, the contested ball numbers in the third term were alarming, minus 28. You had to really, then from the point of view of...
So I'll pause it there. Sorry. I know. Oh, you're just talking about there. Yeah. The question there is just, he's trying to use the emotional side of that comes from the pressure of being a senior coach and players under pressure. And he's talking about the human factor, which is just fucking shit. That's just a real easy deflection tactic that he's using to not answer the question. And he's just, as you said there, Velo, dribbling trash. Absolutely shit.
They played the slow defensive game and then went fast into their forward with the forward territory game. But then you didn't seem to be able to counter that by, you wanted to move it with some speed, but then you just didn't have any tempo. They didn't allow you to do that with the pressure that they applied.
Yeah, and look, whether it was on the air or in the ground, they just had the ascendancy for most of the day. I think in the first half we had 1 tackle inside 50. Well, that's just nowhere near good enough. We had what was it, 7 or 8 tackles pre-clearance. When we talk about pressure on the ball, there's some basic things that need to be able to get done, and we didn't get them done. There was aerial contests that we lost that were outmarked on that should have been brought to ground. When it was brought to ground, there was too much presence and we're outnumbered on the floor. So that made it really hard to be able to get the territory game where we needed it to be.
Before we continue, Answer, you've said here, like or dislike him, there is no way to set the support. Imagine having Lepage and Bolton next to him. The board has so much to answer for. I do agree with that, but we have to remember that when Voss was hired, he was hired as under the notion of someone coming in with experience, which is what the club so desperately needed off the back of Teague and Bolton having no experience. So again, the club is at fault here because they thought he had the experience, didn't need support, and all the support they've brought in is Ash Hansen, who hasn't been a senior coach anywhere else, and he doesn't fit the billing of someone that could have the same impact as a Lepage and Bolton. So it's just, it really is. It's on the board, as you've said there, 100%. It's on the board. They've gone in with this notion, and it's so misguided. It really is, and it shits me because they get away with it. They're like the ones in the background pulling the strings like the Wizard of Oz. And they don't get to really bear the responsibility of making these mistakes. For sure. Even Ross Lyon has Bolton next to him. Yep. So that's the new way to do things. It is. Before we continue on, we've got about 3-4 minutes left at the presser. Dom, you're bringing a player that's played 5 games this year in Frankie Evans, I assume. Lige has got off-field issues that don't need to be brought up. Yeah, I think Lige he's got some other things that he needs to work out before he even concentrates on footy. So he might be gone into the season as well, which is unfortunate. Lukey, agree. Ant Dill, Samuel Carlton, blame the coach. Voss can't motivate the players for a big game. Keeps paying him for the whole season. Elijah Hollands, do what you want, buddy. I think Elijah's he's got issues outside of football. I think so. He's not someone that needs to even be spoken about in the future because unless he irons things out there first and foremost, he's not going to be part of the future of Carlton Football Club. He came with these issues and these issues persist. And, I think there might be an element of other issues as well that come off the back of these, which I won't go into, but he's got to deal with that in his own way, shape or form before he even thinks about returning to becoming a footballer. But yeah, it's frustrating. It is very frustrating. I will agree with that. But yeah, it's just, again, you can blame as many coaches as you want, but blame the people who are making these decisions in appointing these failed coaches. Time and again, it will continue to happen unless the people are held responsible for making these incorrect calls time after time. It really is. Let's continue on. We've got 4 minutes remaining of this, so we'll polish this off.
I think he put up, or I haven't received an update on that.
What about Charlie, apparently?
But, I think he can't, given the fact I haven't received that yet, I'm hoping that he's okay, but we'll obviously confirm that over the next little while, but I think he's okay. Yeah. Same, got a knock to the knee. Just sort of felt like he couldn't probably get going or run as well as we'd like. So at that point in the game, it was probably a bit more conservative with the approach that we took.
Michael, you've obviously been around football for a very long time. If these results do continue piling up, are you sort of confident with your future at the club, I guess?
Don't speculate beyond this week. So it's not for me to do. My job is to look at what worked and what didn't work, and then we put our eyes in on that on Sunday. And it's clear that we need to be able to have some pretty important conversations. We let our club down tonight.
Hey!
We want our supporters to be proud of us, and we didn't do that tonight. There's an expectation of the way we want to be able to play, and we didn't do that tonight. So that's something that we're going to have to sit with. Not going to avoid that conversation. We'll have to cop our whack. Well, we have to cop it because we can't tolerate that. That was a really poor performance.
Is it concerning? I mean, tonight as well, but it's concerning.
I will say that with the way that he answered the question, it was actually not too bad. Considering he is under the pump, and you put yourself in his shoes, and it's a shit position to be in for sure. There's no qualms about it. But he was honest with the fact that they played like shit, and he spoke about being accountable. So what will be. And, for that, I respect him. And like you said, Luke, he knows he's cooked. He's probably at that point where he's just like, there's no use, trying to make a birthday cake out of dog shit, because that's virtually what's happening here. But he's still kind of, he's still trying to pull out the stats that are good and everything. But that was an honest answer, and probably the most honest I think I've heard him be, and vulnerable in a sense there as well. So I do respect him for that. But if he says, and I think, what did he speak about there, like sitting down having honest conversations, then if he's referring to sitting down and being like, okay, well, maybe it's time I leave. I think if I was in his shoes and you know that you're going to be shown the door, surely you get on the front foot and you're like, you know what? I'm going to cop the whack. Let's, shake hands, part ways mutually, and do it out of the respect of knowing that you want to fast track things to the football club, and, things aren't going to get better. Like, I would really respect him highly as not just a football person, but, or a senior coach, but someone, as a football identity, would help preserve his I think, image of not just as a player or as a coach, but overall, I think, that would really be an honest way for him to do things. Hopefully that happens and his hand isn't forced, but I tend to think he's a very, very stubborn coach. And it's one of his attributes, I think, as a human, potentially, as a footballer and as a coach. So I don't think it will come to pass, and he probably will be made. It will make them force his hand and push him out the door. He probably thinks as well, like if he falls on his sword, then I don't know if there's something in the contract where if he willingly wants to renege on the position that he forfeits, a financial sum or whatever. I don't know, but surely they can come to an agreement. And at least that saves both Voss and it saves the new president having come out and said that, we're going to back Voss in. If they make up this narrative that Voss came to them, they've come to a decision, this is what's going to happen. I think that would be the smartest way when we're talking about a PR sense of, showing Voss the door early. Hopefully. And Valley, you're probably right. Like he probably, again, he seems like a really good motivator, someone that can speak to the players quite well. In my eyes, he seems like the sort of, if we were to merge Brendan Bolton and Michael Voss into one entity, that would be an incredible coach, because I think Brendan Bolton has tactically really, really good sense of coaching, not a great communicator. Michael Voss is the opposite, where I don't think he's the best tactician. However, I think he can communicate with the players, be a really good motivator and inspirer of the players. And yeah, maybe that's just, he lasted at Port for quite a number of seasons, and you don't do that without having some sort of strength as an assistant coach. So yeah, you're probably right there, Velo. Let's continue on. I just wanted to point that out and just speak to that.
A bit of a trend now developing, because that's 3 weeks in a row where it's been a sort of similar effort, hasn't it?
Well, I can't sit here and say, it's about a body of work, and then when it goes against you, say it's not. So the 3 weeks we don't clearly want to see, and the things we've valued around our game, while not everything was going exactly the way we wanted, we could hang our hat on a few things. We could have had our hang out on contested ball and being the really top team in that area. We could hang our hat on being a 4 to centre team and shifting that number from last year, from in the bottom 5-6 to the top 4. We'd had some changes in the way we wanted to move the ball, but we weren't finishing our play. So there was a lot of things that you could actually sort of sit back and sort of say, no, that's the style of football that you want to be able to play. But we have not seen that enough over the last, the last 3 weeks.
Michael, you talk about support for the players and families, in a time like this. But, what about you? How are you going? How are you coping?
The only thing I ever think about as a leader is my people. So that's where the focus lies for me. So, you get asked that question a fair bit around pressure, and clearly there's that. I just choose not to act into it. Every day I come into work, I get to choose how I want to be, what type of leader I want to be. And that means I get a chance to impact. And we've got to shift the needle. So that will take a collective effort to be able to do that. So there'll be a lot of leaning on our leaders this week around what we want that to look like and how consistent we want that to be. And that expectation's been set. It's been set previously here, and it will stay the same. We've got to be much better than what we are, and we've got to lead our way out of that. And that starts absolutely with me.
What kind of leader do you want?
Beg your pardon?
What kind of leader do you want?
Oh, geez, that's a broad question. How long we want? I can't summarise that in a minute. What I'd like to be is consistent right now, and what I'd like to be is making sure that we're making one decision at a time and getting them right. When you can look at a lot of different problems, we've got to sort of acknowledge that we're not going to necessarily solve them all in one decision. So it's going to be a steady process and a lot of conversations that we need to be able to have. And what we're also going to be, make sure that we continue to believe in what we're doing. So, if we're sort of starting to throw magnets around too much and starting to flip structures, and if I'm not going to believe in what we're doing, then they won't believe in it. They won't believe in the direction we're going. So there will be a strong belief, confidence, guidance, mentoring that we'll have to take through this period of time. I'd imagine that's going to take some level of patience, some urgent, some intense, and some patience in some of those conversations.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Cheers.
Do you want to come in?
Want to see who's hot and who's not? Use Sportsbet's AFL player form to get all the stats you need on your favourite players all in one place. From Sportsbet.
You win some, you lose more.
Maybe losing. Yeah, we've all been there, mate. A lot of us have been there. Velo, selection panelists do what is needed this week. Well, who goes in and out? Velo, let us know your thoughts, mate.
What locked out?
Yeah, what locked out? Are you coming in? What are you doing? Oh, the stream's on. I'm going live.
Are you on live now?
Yes, I'm on live. This is my roomie. AK the wife. I was chatting about earlier. Fellow Nuffy. Luke, the group have checked out, start making plans for next year. Who is on board and who to show the door? There you go. Velo, out Motlop, as your wife said. I've been calling for Motlop out for, I can't remember how many, probably dating back to round one. Just lack of effort and just not good enough. And he's not the answer. He's classic case of Stephen Bradbury where he's the only small forward that we've got. So like, oh yeah, we'll just back him in. We'll persist with him.
I think anyone that doesn't want to be there should be out.
Yeah, including us. I think we should be out as well.
I'm not going to any games this year. I've already missed every game, not from any choice of my own, and I have no plans to go to any more.
Who's the next coach?
Longmire.
Yeah, Horse.
There
you go, Dom. We all know why Motlop isn't dropped.
Okay. Do we?
I don't know. What is it? It's to do with that tick on the box, I think, whether or not you're a...
No, don't say that. That's not nice.
I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah, but don't say that.
But no, Motlop, I think, is the love child. No, I don't know why, Dom. I don't know why. He dances. Oh, okay, he dances. No, he does the, what is it, the slice, whatever it is?
Whatever you're saying, no.
But yeah, he's not the answer. He's not the answer. Who else goes out, Velo? I reckon TDK has to go out. I reckon Akers goes out. Probably Doherty. He sells merch. Who else goes out? Voss goes out. Bring in Harry Lemmy. Play him centre half forward. Bring Wilson back in. Goodbye, Frankie Evans. Pitnet can obviously stay without TDK. You could probably drop McGovern as well, but
that probably scares me more. That Pito, if and when TDK leaves, Pito's our number one ruck.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
unless we trade for someone else.
Ned Moyle.
Yeah, someone said. What was that about? Someone said something about Kerno. I agree.
Kuno Wally is currency.
Oh, I don't know about trading him, but he needs some. I don't know what's going on with him at the moment.
Yeah. Will White. Yep. Bring him back in. I'm surprised. I actually forgot about Will White, but he's actually been pretty good. And I don't know why he was dropped before Motlop of all players again. Yeah, I think he's lost everything. He's lost his speed. He's lost his skills due to lack of confidence. Even the sharpness of mind and stuff, reaction times not good enough. McGovern, Akers, Evans, Teddy K, Doherty. There you go. You've mentioned all the players I said, and maybe Williams through injury. Yep, I reckon that's fair. Haynes frustrates me. We couldn't. Haynes has actually been one of our better players. Bar round 1 and 2, where a lot of people were shit canning him.
Including you.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't shit canning Haynes. I've always said he's a good player. What do you make shit up? Go back and watch my my review. Goes to show you don't watch my stuff.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
have to hear it. I live it. That's why.
No, Haynes is good, and I said have a look in the preseason that he actually brings a bit of experience, and it takes a little while to get used to the game plan, which is non-existent.
He was okay, except that he didn't kick a goal, which is his literally only job.
Yeah, because you had him in the multi as well to kick a goal.
I didn't. I don't play with those things.
Ken needs to worry about his beer brand. Yeah.
And he has a spa or something, doesn't he now?
He has a potato on his boot. I think he's transforming into one ant.
Oh, don't. I hate the Doherty hate.
No, it's not. It's not hate. It's just he's probably well aware himself that he's on the way out. I wouldn't get rid of Walsh because you watch. He's going to go to another team and he'll be an incredible player because he's just been struck down with injury. Have a think back to how good he was in the 2023 final series when he won the best finals player. He's not being played correctly. He's being played as an inside midfielder when he's not an inside mid. He's best played outside or even a wingman, and Voss refuses to do so. You watch when Voss is gone, when an actual coach comes in and works out players' strengths, like playing Sard as an attacking defender back when he came to the club and looked really good in that role, which Voss refuses to play him in. Walsh played on the outside, push Charlie up to the wing and keep Harry as a stay-at-home full forward because we just bomb it into the head of our forwards, which is Harry's strength. It'll work out. I hated to drop you. Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, absolutely. I said he was shit house. Walsh can barely. Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's
like
injured.
what Cripps was like. When was it? 2 years ago when he was carrying that back injury that was no one was talking about it, but he was clearly injured the whole season. Was that 2 years ago? I can't even remember now. Cripps. Remember when he was?
Oh, it was like 3 years ago.
He had a shit season, and
that was after COVID.
I can't remember. All the years are blending.
Who would I get rid of? Cripps, Walsh, Mackay, and I would actually persist with all of them. Really, I just don't think they're being played correctly. As I mentioned, Walsh should be played outside. Mackay should be played as a stay-at-home, bustling full forward. Kerno should be pushed higher up the ground because he's that aerobic, tall forward. Not playing Mackay in that role. And Cripps is just down in form and confidence. That's all. So I don't think we're forced to trade anyone. But if we need to,
I'd get rid of one of Kerno or Harry. I know that's not good, and it would probably be Harry.
Yeah, probably be Harry.
Not because I would trade him ordinarily, but I don't know. We haven't really seen them together for such a long time.
I think anyone would take the young Harley Reid for Cripps, but I don't think West Coast would. That's for sure. Cooper Lord, he's one of my favourites, Coops. But that's the other thing as well, that players aren't being given enough of an opportunity. And, they make their debut as a sub, which has happened with Flynn Lord. Not Flynn Lord, sorry, Flynn, what's his name? Flynn Young. He was sub again tonight. It's like, why would you even draft him to come in and play as a sub when he has the attributes of what we need as a winger kicking really nicely inside forward 50, and we'll just play him as a sub. Fogg and Carroll were not great tonight, but I wouldn't drop either. Yeah, Fogg's been on and off. Carroll actually had a nice bit of play running up the wing, but yeah, his kicking can leave a little bit to be desired, but good attacking defender. Cripps must have an injury. 2 key forwards don't work. They butt heads.
I agree.
I think the Mackay's... Well, yeah.
But it did work. It did used to work because it used to be that one would take the heat off the other. So one would take the key defender and then the other one would be freed up and have a blind up. But at the moment, you can't really rely on either of them.
Yeah. Which I just spoke about there. That's referring to what I was mentioning, Dom. Curnow, you make him work higher up the ground, push up to the wing, and then run back and use, because his field kicking actually is pretty good, much like Harry. And I think that's part of the reason why they use Harry as sort of that tall marking post on the wing. But if you're kicking on the head of a player, you're not kicking it on the head of a Curnow, who it's not his strength to mark overhead, whereas with Harry it is. And you use Charlie as a leading forward if you're going to use him in any capacity. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. I don't think they're being played correctly. But if you look at, 2 key forwards not working, you have a look at Adelaide and they've got 3 tall forwards and they can make it work. So, and it did work. So with us.
It did work, yeah.
So again, it's to do with positioning, coaching, and I don't think Jordan Russell's a much of a coach really. And it concerns me that Ash Hansen was the forwards coach before Jordan Russell, and now Ash Hansen is the senior assistant coach. I'm like, what? Doesn't make sense. If you're not being able to coach as a line coach, how are you a senior assistant coach? Yeah, forwards need to lead more. Yep, one of my big gripes. It makes no sense. There's no leading patterns, and part of that issue is why the midfielders just bomb it in, because they don't know where to kick to. If you compare it to Collingwood, for example, you look at McStay kicking to Leeds, Elliott, who's in the top 5 for the Coleman this year, having almost a career best season, playing as like a mid to tall forward when he's not a tall forward, but just great leading patterns. And they worked out how to kick. They kick to position as opposed to players, whereas we try and just kick to a contest inside forward 50, and a lot of the time it doesn't work.
Pray and hope.
Yeah. McKay's the centre half forward. He can kick from 50, but can miss from 10 metres out, as we know. Worked in 2022. Delivering to forward line is poor. Last time it worked was 2022 from round 1 to 11 to that Sydney Indigenous game. Our endurance and fitness seems off. We went for speed and power this preseason, tried to avoid injuries and forgot endurance. Yeah, and I think that the game plan it expects too much of the players to be running up and back, like to push the entire forward half into the defensive half of the ground to force a turnover and then be expected to run back. Like when that ball's turned over, it's impossible to sustain across 4 quarters unless you're a bloody endurance machine and you've got a team full of a Max Holmes or Walsh who's pretty good with endurance. Like we don't have players of that capacity. To ask the entire team to do that is just nonsensical. Different breeds. See, Taylor Walker, he's more of a stay-at-home forward, but yeah, he's a power endurance type player as well. But Phil Thorpe's he's an animal. It's a good way to sum him up. So yeah, system and setup and stuff, it needs to change. And that's why I'd like to see Voss, they come to an agreement, shake hands. All right, we're going to let you go. We're going to run with the narrative that we've come to an agreement. And that way it doesn't ruin Voss's image and it doesn't ruin the image of the new president that backed him in only a week or 2 ago. And just move things on, try something new and refresh the players' minds, go into the postseason for next year and then try and get on a better coach and coaching setup. It's worked before TQ4, it was 3 years ago. No, that's just options officials play for themselves. And I'd like to see the Campo twins come in, at least one of those, because they're both quite speedy. Lucas showed a fair bit as well, and I don't understand why he hasn't come back into the team. Looked really good in round 1. Played a couple of games, and then that's it, done.
We'll probably see them all now anyway. Like I said to you 2 weeks ago, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of players that start mysteriously going to have surgeries for injuries and then miss the rest of the season so they prep and get ready for next year. So I suspect, a lot of these kids will start getting a good run. There's nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Literally, there is nothing to lose.
yeah, you can't get any lower.
Well, don't say that. We probably can.
Yeah, we can get lower, but in terms of confidence and form and everything,
Yeah, just, I don't know,
Cheers.
try something different.
as it stands at the moment, we're 11th.
And we've got Brisbane next week. God
So we
help
can
us.
drop as low as 13th. I'm actually at this point, I'm barracking that we get as low as we can, because if TDK leaves, the lower it is, the better the draft pick.
But aren't our picks already?
We don't have a first round pick for this coming draft, so it'll be the TDK compensation will be first round, which comes the round after your first round pick. So if we finish 11th, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Currently we've got 8th pick, which we don't have because we traded it for Jagger.
Yeah.
So we'd have pick 9 with TDK compensation. But what was the Hawthorn game? Round 3, 2022.
Yeah, I don't think I could deal with losing to Essendon.
Oh, yeah.
No, thank you.
Rather we had skillful players. Just look at Collingwood and how their players dispose of the ball. Yep. I see us finishing 16th. And we would get pick 4 as compo. Yeah. Nah, I wouldn't. The thing is, Draper's not getting a run for Adelaide anyway at the moment, and he's had his injury issues. So I think Jagger and Sid are always going to be compared, but just you watch, Jagger's going to be, and he's got attributes of players that we want that have speed, which he has, and he can kick a football. He's incredible pinpoint passing. He's like a Nick Dacos. He runs around the ground, can 1-2 efforts, overlap, play, that sort of stuff. He's a really good player. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come in because he will fill a direct need for us, that's for sure. And he's a very very wise player for his age as well. So he has leadership qualities. Had a year on what other bottom age draftees have, because he finished his schooling a year before majority of draftees. So he spent virtually the entire season playing football full time. So he's got already that under his belt. We'll keep him in good stead. He was injured though in the draft, so he hurt his back, and that delayed his preparation for this season. And then he just can't get a crack, which is interesting for Adelaide. Yeah, he'll be a gun. People will doubt him, but you watch when he plays. If you haven't seen any of his highlights, if you didn't get a chance to see him, go and check it out.
Even just how he spoke. Remember when he got drafted?
Yeah, he's very mature.
How he spoke.
He's very mature for his age, and similar to Walsh and Weeders, like when they were both drafted, and spoke quite well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what we have to look forward to now. That's virtually it. Who do we play? I don't even know who we play for the remainder of the season.
We have Brisbane next week. I don't know either. I'm really out of.
Yeah, I really couldn't give a shit at the moment.
Melbourne could win that.
Brisbane,
They're not doing
Melbourne.
great. Hawthorn will lose. Freo and Freo will lose. Suns at Marvel will most likely lose.
Yeah.
Carlton Port will probably lose.
Yep.
And then Essendon could go either way.
Yeah. I don't think they'll win another game, really. No quick fixes, 5 years minimum amount of pain. The one thing that stood out with Sid Draper is his lying in his eyes. Draper was probably the most strong of all the draftees in terms of his evasiveness, which, you mentioned there. Really good, pirouetting out of traffic and stuff. And, like Jagger's got a bit of that about him, but, Sid Draper had it all, like pirouetting, sidestepping, changing his speed of ball movement and everything else is really, really good. Brisbane, Melbourne, Port, Suns, Freo. I doubt we win any of them. Yeah, I think we're done. I'll do this for you, Dom. You've said round 3, 2022. Let's go up to the fixture. if the mouse wants to work, which it's not. What is going on here? Oh, their website's just a piece of shit. Now what was
Round
it?
3.
Round 3. Oh my god, this fucking website. Silence. Hey, let's have a look who was in this team who's no longer in it. Plowman, no. Young, no. Boyd. Williams, yes. Sweeters. Newman's injured. No. O'Brien. Cripper is. Setters, no. So I've only got Williams, Weeders, and Cripps so far. Charlie, TDK, Walsh injured. Not playing. Harry injured. Owi's traded. Pitt's playing. Chera's playing. Hewitt's playing. Gone. Playing. Gone. Injured.
What's the significance of this?
But there's,
game?
yeah. So we won by 1 point against them. But, well, it's like I compared us to, if you have a look back at, go back again. Let's go on. 2023.
The prelim.
Prelim game. Have a look at our team. So we've got, in terms of who played tonight, Weeders, Marchbank's delisted, Sard is injured. Gov's playing, Boyd was playing last week, Nick Newman injured, Holland's playing, Cripps playing, Akers playing, Fogg playing, Doc playing, Cottrell not playing, Harry's injured. There's Charlie, Martin's not, you got traded. Pitt, Hewitt playing, Walsh injured, Chincotta dropped, TDK playing, Chera playing, Mott not playing. So a bulk of that team there is still playing tonight, bar injuries and a couple of guys that got delisted. So you can't lose all that talent over the course of 2 seasons to make a prelim. There are players down on form, confidence, everything else, but
It's a drive that's gone.
yeah. He's going through. Oh, he said, I'll be honest, as soon as we recruited Jago, I said to my dad, I had a feeling we pick a dud, and I probably isn't, but that's what I said. And I said, watching you get injured. You can't put that juju out into the world, Dom. The universe is always listening, mate. Kennedy, Fisher, 0 depth. Oh, Jack Martin was a sell as well. Let go. Yeah, and have a look at this. Kennedy was the sub for the shots. Yeah, Matt Kennedy was the sub for this game as well. I think that might be it, ladies and gents. We might end things here.
You can talk about them forever.
Exactly.
You just get angrier and angrier.
Yeah. So from here, let's just hope there are changes during the week. And
They
if
will.
not,
Watch all these players go and get surgery. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
yeah. I'm talking about the head coach.
That's not the club. From a PR and perspective, the club will not back after the email that we got and the big.
But did you hear that?
The big hoo-ha they made during the week. There's no way.
Yeah, what they should, they're out is if they have a chat to Voss and say, we're going to come to an agreement.
Unless he, yes.
That's what I'm saying. They meet with him and say, look, this is going to be the out we're going to offer you. We want to sack you, but we'll come out and we'll control the narrative and say that you came to us and you wanted to part ways with the club out of respect, and I'll now fast track the handover that was going to be was going to happen inevitably at the end of the season anyway. And that way it makes Voss look good. It makes the president not look like a dickhead coming out as he did stupidly and said we're going to back him in. And yeah,
I still don't think that's what happens, but
that's the only way they can do it. There's no other way.
No, I think they're just gonna. He'll be there till the end.
He's going to be lynched. I'm sorry. There's going to be the club. It's ruining the club's image now.
Did you see the footage of he was speaking at 3/4 time to and he was saying, "Hey,
the 3 leaders, yeah, Cripps, Weeders, and
but
Charlie.
Someone lip read what he was saying.
Yeah,
it was like something along like, don't quote me exactly. The effort is deplorable or something along those lines.
Yeah, he spoke about it in the presser, and he said about setting standards and stuff. Yeah. Supercoach, not too bad, mate. Ranked in the top 10K still, I think.
I'm out of here now. No interest to me.
See you, bye.
See ya.
Just quickly, not too bad. I'm ranked currently. If we can find my bloody 6,709th overall, so not too bad. But check out my alternate channel for that if you are keen. It is Supercoach Edge, hence the Edge title for the for this channel. But if you just search Supercoach Edge in YouTube, I'll whack up the link for anyone that is keen, and you can follow it. For those people that are keen super coaches out there, I do a weekly episode, bit of fun, bit of banter, entertainment, and do my weekly team talk videos as well, where I chat about strategies and trading in and out and everything else. But that is it. Thank you, Dom, for tuning in. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, mate. Valo as well. Always appreciate both of you boys. Dom, apologies if you are a regular, but I think you are quite new. So thanks for joining us. But Jay, you're a regular here around these parts. Likewise, Valo. Thank you. Always a pleasure, mate. And the offer is there as well for our next live stream. Anyone that wants to jump on for a bit of a chat, bit of a yarn, and chat virtually, online, virtually with the camera and mic is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? But if you are keen to just jump in the chat, that's also good as well. Good to have a bit of a dialogue between fellow baggers out there and events and get it off our chest just to, it's more cathartic more than anything, because at this stage, the way that the team's going, the club's going, it's pretty shit. Let's put it bluntly. No, I don't wish it went through, Dom. I'm a big fan of Kempy. Thank you, Mello. And it's you, Josh. That is the link there. How come it says Dominic, Josh? Normally, I remember the blue J pop up on screen. So are you on a new account or an alternate account, a brother's account maybe, or your dad's? But I just assumed first off you might have been a Pie supporter because you were heaping praise on the Pies and you came across as a bit of a troll. So an alt account. Oh, there you go. Interesting. I think YouTube now have a what's it called? A privacy mode, I think now. So you don't need an alt account. You just put it to privacy mode. If you're looking at some interesting videos, mate. But with that, ladies and gents, we might end things there, and might venture across to Terry's channel on Blue Abroad. Check him out. Might have a little bit of yarn, maybe just see what's happening. But no doubt people are in the queue there for that, and I just figured that jump in here quickly, do a review, and have an open mic session if anyone's keen. So thank you for joining me. If you are watching for the first time, of course, feel free to give us a like and subscribe as well, because the subscription, virtually what it does is it tells YouTube, or the algorithm for YouTube, to promote our channel to other blue baggers out there, and just helps the channel grow. So it is a bit of a hobby here, a bit of a opportunity to just talk shit with you fellow baggers out there, and chat about what I love, which is stats analysis and Carlton, all in all. But just a quick, exactly 2-hour stream. I did say at the start that I was going to keep it quick, but it's my style. I just talk too much shit and get caught up, and I wasn't banking on having as many people jump on. So thanks again to the likes of yourself and everyone else, Dom/Josh, and everyone else that's Luke Dempsey, just scrolling back through, Ant Dills, Velo. I just want to shout everyone out here, just to be kind. There was another one as well. Geez, there were quite a few messages scrolling back through these comments. Gee whiz. Winner Sex. Who else was there? Oh, Jack. Jack was another one. Really good. And Logan as well, who was nice enough to say, I hope my little boys are all right, but he is getting stronger and stronger by the day, mate. So again, thank you for the love, support, tuning in, chatting shit, and with that, let's hold on tight, fellow baggers. We'll get through this as we always have. Just remember, we've got through so many. That's the one comforting thing is we've gotten through these issues once before, but the difference here is I believe, and I fully believe this. Unlike times when we've sacked coaches with Teague, with Bolton, all those years ago, that I think we can actually turn things around quite quickly with the changing coach and changes across the board. And it's not just a changing coach this time. I think Wright's going to come in and change a bit more than that. And I think the change is due. It'll fast track things and put us on a corrective course, I think, that will really hold us in good stead. So with that, ladies and gents, those are the closing thoughts, closing words. Thank you as always. And we'll catch you in the next one. We'll catch you then. Well, I'm heading across to Blue Abroad, so go and check him out, of course. Terry's channel does some incredible work. Cheers. Go Baggers.
Have you ever heard the MCG like that?